Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Well, it's not really another video because it's the first video on my new channel, and this is going to be a first in a series of videos that I'm going to do on Doctor Who. And yeah, so I'm just chilling here with my friend Lee today, aka Problembeing,
Hello.
and we're going to be talking about every Dalek story in the history of Doctor Who, but ranked worst to best in our opinion. So that should be interesting.
Yay. Are we including the movies? Because you mentioned that. I forgot to ask.
Yes, we are including the Peter Cushing movies just because they're so cool. We can't leave those out.
Crikey. So yeah, I'm gonna have to wing that one.
Well, let's be honest, they're going to be somewhere near the top.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So, yeah, I see no reason why we can't get straight into it. So, I have all the
Yay.
Dalek stories here ready to go. So, just going to take a quick look at see if there's anybody turned up yet. No viewers quite yet, but they're probably all having trouble finding the channel. I mean, like, I've got 3 subs. PD says he's on the way,
Yay.
and Golden Age Geek did put a thumbs up in the group chat, so it's like, I don't know if he'll turn up at some point. They're all probably trying to find my channel because it practically doesn't exist yet.
Well, just send them a link again. I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
we'll wing it, and there's always the repeat viewing, so there's no loss there. No
So
loss.
just while we're getting ready, should we talk about why we like the Daleks so much?
Yeah,
Oh
go
yeah.
for it.
Well, they were the introductory monster to the show. In fact, if it wasn't for the episode Dalek, I would never have become a fan of this show in the first place. And like I've pretty much told you, when I first started watching the show, the only thing I was ever really interested in was Daleks. It's like if there was anything else on, I wasn't interested. So, it's needless to say I was captivated by them.
The
And
bug-eyed monsters.
sadly, over the years, there's been a bit of a steady decline, at least when it
Mm.
comes to the modern show. But yeah, I think it's going to be really good to go over these stories and just get that fan blood pumping again. So yeah, what was it like for you being introduced to them?
Well, I was introduced to the Daleks a long time ago. When I was 4 years old in 1979 for Destiny of the Daleks. And I remember being more terrified, I think, of Tom Baker than I was of either the Daleks or Davros. But it was really Romana that sort of made me feel he was it was all right, that he was on my side. And I was absolutely at that point captured by Doctor Who and the Daleks and Davros, and I wanted to learn more and to know more. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I was sold at that point. I became a fan.
Awesome. So, gosh, Destiny was quite an interesting story to start on, especially with the Daleks. And Dalek stories weren't as common as they were with me. I mean, I got them every year, but it was quite a huge gap between
Mm.
Destiny and Resurrection. So, did the Daleks kind of like make you like, oh, I want to see more, or was it just kind of like, oh, what's coming next?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was Davros that absolutely intrigued me. And this guy who made these crazy, wacky looking monsters. And I just thought they were so unusual and unique. And I think that's one thing about Doctor Who is that its monsters have always been so unique and so much part of its mythos and its attraction, because they are so completely different to anything else you see in science fiction. And the Daleks, I think, particularly, are just one of those archetypal villain monsters that you just can't compare them to anything else. There's nothing like them. And they are iconic. I hate using that word. People use that word way too liberally, but in this case,
Mm,
they genuinely, really, truly are. They are part of our British psyche, I think. And I
mm.
think that stems really from the sort of post-war generation. They're the ones who came up with them and sort of made them as an allegory for the bad guys from Germany in the 1930s. So Yeah, so there is some good that came out of World War II. So yeah, I think, you know, these sort of pepper pot space Yahtzees are just so unique, really unique.
Absolutely. But as a kid, you know, like I wasn't obviously only being 5 years old, I wasn't really educated in World War II. So, you know,
Mhm.
seeing a monster like a Dalek, you know, that just kills and kills and kills was quite, you know, it was quite insane,
It's a good
really.
education actually for young kids to grow up with that, because you know you learn so much about good and evil, really. You know, the morality tales of Doctor Who, which have always been there. You know, people say, "Oh, it's, you know, political," and to an element, yes. But I think the most important thing to take away from it is the morality tale. And I think the Daleks really provide such a wonderful, very black and white depiction of good and evil. You know, the Doctor being eternally good, and the Daleks being the epitome, the embodiment of evil, and they are sinister. I mean, a lot of people would say they were quite jokey, and you know, there were a lot of comedy sketch shows taking the mick out of Daleks. And yes, I mean, if you look at it objectively outside without having any connections to Doctor Who or know much about it, whatever, you just look at them and think they look ridiculous. But when you see them in action and in the stories and in the context of Doctor Who, they are actually very sinister. There is something really creepy about them.
Yeah,
Um, and you know, I mean, if you look at, you know, a lot of the older Daleks, you know, they might wobble a bit, you know, they might seem a bit unstable or a bit flimsy looking, or all these things. But, you know, that's part of its charm. And in New Who, particularly, I think they did a wonderful job at reintroducing them and reintroducing that genuine threat that made the Daleks scary again. And I think that that's a great thing that New Who did, particularly, especially
yes.
with Dalek.
But as we'll discuss in
Yeah.
our rankings, I think that that gradually started to wear away.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it was,
Uh,
in a big way, but it's
yeah.
interesting because even though in Classic Who, you know, looking at it now, you can see they're sort of a bit shabby and a bit clunky, especially in Destiny, and Planet. I mean, they look like they've been bashed about. You know,
Yeah,
they
I
look
don't
very
mind
damaged.
that. You know, I think, you know, these things are tin pot dictators, literally, but they are, you know, busy taking over the universe, so they are going to be a bit battered and torn. I have no problem with that. And they're not going to be particularly that keen on their appearance. You know, they're not going to be staring at themselves in the mirror, going, you know, my eyes looks a bit, you know, bit chipped today. I think I'm going to put a bit of
Well,
lacquer on
I
me.
don't think the creature inside can really bear to look
Right.
at itself in the mirror,
It's a
can it?
bogey with arms. I mean, what do you want? You know.
Literally. But as I was gonna say, like, you know, as a kid, just going back and seeing the older ones, I just saw them as cool. I really liked all
Mm,
the different types because, you know, I'd only ever known the bronze ones at that point. So
mm.
seeing the grey ones and the silver ones and the silver and black and just all the different, and especially the Peter Cushing films, like all the different colors they had in there. Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
then Moffat went a bit too far with that
yeah, but
multicolour.
we'll
I don't
save
think
that
Moffat
for
really
them.
understood the Daleks very well, which is
No,
surprising when you think he's, you know, such a fan. But
well, yeah.
yeah, the Daleks, he just never seemed, for me anyway, to know what to do with them.
No, well, I suppose everyone's different, and you know,
Mm.
like Moffat did contribute some great things, but yeah, the Daleks and Cybermen, I guess some fans just weren't so keen on them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's always been a sort of division between Daleks and Cybermen. You know, you get people. I think that's always been the case. You know, some people are Dalek. It's like cat people and dog people. You know, you got
Mm.
Dalek people and Cybermen people, and you know all the bits in between. You know,
I mean, I like them both. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
mm.
if this is a success, we could even do Cyberman stories because you know
Yeah,
I've always found them very interesting as
I
well. But
love
I
the
think
Cybermen. Yeah,
yeah, but I think putting them against the Daleks, nah, Daleks are gonna win. Like whenever I played with my toys on the stairs, the Daleks have always won. Usually without even a scratch, just no, just power their way through, and that's what I love about them, especially in series one, which, as I say, I'm looking forward to getting onto those stories. Is just, how effortlessly they just wipe everything out. I think that's what a Dalek is. It's not something that should be blown up every 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much where the Daleks ended up in the 80s, just being fodder, being pushed off of things and blowing them up and, taking them out a bit too easily in some
Yeah.
cases, I think.
But anyway, as I say, we're gonna get on to
Yeah,
discussing these. So, still no sign of anyone yet. As I say, PD's on the way.
that's all
Um,
right. We'll
so
be here.
we'll just start. As I say, we'll just see how the video does. After all, it is our first stream.
Hmm.
So yeah, keep an eye on the. Can you see the chat? Okay, Lee.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, yeah. Will you be a moderator for me if
Have
anyone comes
you
in?
wrenched me? I haven't been wrenched.
I'm not sure. Can I even do that yet?
Yeah, should be able to. Oh, do that later. I mean, we'll just keep an
Yeah,
eye on
yeah.
it.
So if I somehow get a troll in this stream, I'll be very surprised. Right. So we are going to go straight on to the presentation. Let me just bring it up here. That's cool. So you can see that fine. And we're going to start at the very bottom. So coming in, so there are 28 spots. Now there are 26 Dalek stories in the show, but there's also the Peter Cushing movie. So I know that's going to make things a little bit confusing. So I'm sorry about that. But
Especially for me, because I use a tier maker, a pre-made one, which only has the stories. So I'm going to have to think as we get closer to the top where I
yeah,
put them.
like last night I just spent half an hour sat thinking with a pen in my hand, like which one is in which order, and I've just written them out here in order.
Yeah.
So coming in at the very bottom for me, we have Eve of the Daleks.
Yes.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Now, the thing with me is I am such a fan of the Daleks aesthetically that
Mm,
even sometimes there have been abysmal stories. Just their presence alone has enabled me to watch. I'm a fan like that. When I really love something, sometimes it takes more than a shoddy script to get me to stop watching. But this might be the first case in the show's history where that wasn't the case.
mm.
In fact, I remember tuning in, I think when it was live broadcast, I think I tuned in for 10 minutes and then I just couldn't. Now, I know there's a certain someone that I can easily mention the reason why, but the whole story itself, from what I gathered and from what I've seen other people talk about it, is just really, really silly. I'm
Mm.
not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, do you want to talk about the story, or do you know
Well,
enough
the
about the
story
story?
is, from what I've gathered, and I have no intention of ever watching it again because I need my mental health to improve, not get worse. So, the Daleks have created a time loop to basically keep killing the same people to test how humans behave in certain situations.
Mm,
They've also upgraded their guns to these spinny rotating miniguns, which I personally don't like. It comes across as a bit more of a gimmick than an actual improvement. And also, I hate that they've gotten rid of the plungers. And I know it's like everyone was always like, oh, but what is the deal with the plunger? It's like, well, it's iconic, and I just seeing that whatever it's supposed to be there
mm.
just really drives me mad. I really don't like it at all.
Well, at least it isn't the redesigned anorexic Daleks.
No, well, yeah, there is that. So they've ditched them just like they did the Paradigm Daleks
The
at
only
this
thing is
point.
they tried to make them look more overpowered because of these sort of Gatling gun style things, but they couldn't even get through a corrugated metal door, which was just really ridiculous. And yeah, okay, they'd managed to actually shoot and kill people, over and over again because of the time loop thing, which was just I could have enjoyed that more
Yeah,
because of
I
who
mean,
who they were
I have
killing
a
over and over.
feeling if it had been done in any other era, it may have been an interesting idea, almost like a Dalek testing range.
Mm.
You know, like for weapons, they could have said, right, well, hey guys, we're trying out this new weapon. Let's create this kind of target range, but with real species. And instead of having to keep filling it up with humans, let's just have the same ones over and over again.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
that
PD Rich is in the chat, says, "Are you guys just talking to you?" Not anymore.
not anymore. No, do us a favor, PD. Would you share this about if you possibly can? I know
Yeah.
you've got more connections than me.
And he says, "Body plug claws and crappling guns, crappling
Yeah,
guns."
you can't sum it up any more than that. But I think this
Yeah.
story kind of just shows me just how tired I am getting of this bronze design.
Hmm.
You know, I adored it when I was a kid, and I still do to this day, but it's time for a change. You know, we've had two failed redesigns now. Even if you just change the colors up, I
Something.
just think
Yeah.
something. And I'm very happy to hear that, you know, at least for the next era, that's what is supposed to be happening.
Hmm.
You know, because
I mean,
it's time.
with
Sorry.
this story though, I mean, it could have been any monster doing this. It didn't even need to be the
Yes.
Daleks, and
Yes.
that's what made it even more disappointing. And the fact that we were focused on this creepy guy who kept his ex girlfriend's belongings in
Yeah.
a you know
I don't even want to go into
in a
that.
unit. Yeah, that was just, yeah. I mean, the story was. I mean, it just went nowhere.
The story was
This was
bad.
on the other side of the Flux series, and the universe supposed to be destroyed. Yet that was not addressed. The TARDIS was like breaking up, and that is kind of fixed. We thought that was going to lead into something. It didn't go
Yeah,
anywhere.
well, the Daleks were in flux, and apparently they all got destroyed.
Oh yeah, the terrible CGI Daleks with
Oh my god, I
the
remember
rotating
that.
head, which was
Yes, I remember
weird. Like the
that.
whole turret was moving. It was
I
just.
actually thought they bought action figures and just stop motion them. It looked that bad. Oh my god.
But that's not
Y-
on our list. So
No, no, we're only including actual Dalek stories, not cameos.
yeah, thanks,
So, you know,
PD.
there won't be Time of the Doctor, there won't be Day of the Doctor, none of that, because, you know,
Yeah,
they're more cameos.
yeah,
So this is bottom for both of us, isn't it?
yeah. This is my 28th position as well. Bottom of the barrel. It really is scraping the barrel. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the Daleks. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing for the audience. It's embarrassing in general.
Like if I was the Terry Nation estate, I really would be threatening to pull the license at this point.
Yeah, that was
Just
just.
for respect out for my, you know, I'm guessing it must be his grandkids by now. You know, it's like I get it, you guys are making a lot of money, but it's just come on, I'm sure you've made enough.
I mean, it's always good to have Daleks in a sort of siege story, but it was so uninteresting. And I mean, the fact that they were just getting away with shooting and killing and having everything reset anyway. I mean, the level of threat was just not non-existent. Plus, the
Mm.
fact they couldn't get through a corrugated door for crying out loud.
One thing I
Forget it.
will say that came from this story that was good was a brilliant parody, which you can watch on YouTube. It's
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. Joe Vivas, I think his name is.
something like that. But
Yeah, definitely
his revolution of the Daleks was
spot
hilarious.
on. Which,
Absolutely.
speaking of, I'm going to get straight onto for my number 27, and that is Revolution of the Daleks. Now, and Lee knows this, I actually put myself through this last night. I went back and I watched it because I remember it actually being some way decent.
Mm. I
Oh
didn't
boy.
watch it, so the only reason I didn't put this last is simply because this became the fodder for that excellent comic piss take, which was so spot on about the fandom and everything, and I just thought it was just so for that reason alone. This is actually I had actually had this at 26th place.
Oh. So, yeah, I actually put myself through this again and I realized, oh my goodness, nothing makes any sense. So, basically, the Dalek from Resolution, they took the shell and there was some DNA left from where the creature had been. And don't even ask me how, but this guy, this scientist, is able to grow more Dalek, well, one Dalek mutant just from the DNA that is left on the casing. I mean, completely grow it in every detail. So it's a clone, because a human scientist from 2021 can totally do that. And
Cool.
yeah, then that Dalek becomes really intelligent, and somehow, I don't even know how, Matt is able to grow an army of them. And then that evil, definitely not Donald Trump guy is building Dalek drones to kind of enforce the enforce Britain, because this evil, definitely not conservative metaphor prime minister is wants to use them for her publicity. And then the Dalek creatures teleport themselves inside the Dalek drones, take them over, and they start killing people. So the Doctor probably does. I mean, they even say it in the episode, the most stupid idea ever, and that's call real Daleks, real ones, to come and fight them. And yeah,
Yeah,
literally come and fight them. Never mind
stupid.
that there are innocent people running around and will probably get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah,
And
and you know, the irony is there's more resolution engineered in this story. I mean, I haven't watched it, so I mean, I couldn't put myself through. But I know you just recently did. I mean, hats off to you for
I
putting
needed
yourself through that.
therapy after I was damaged.
Oh
I was
God.
actually damaged.
But like, you know, and then trying to trick the Daleks into going into the TARDIS that isn't her TARDIS, but is like, and then
Yes.
destroying that TARDIS, which is a living
Oh.
thing apparently. So it's so ridiculous and morally ambiguous. And as you say, you know, it just puts more threat, which you don't. I mean, if that's your plan, you're a moron. And the fact it works, you know, in the real world. I mean, if it was the real world, no way would that
So
work.
you're telling me that all of the Daleks had to go in there? The hundreds and hundreds of them that came out of that big spaceship?
I mean, you would
And
send one Dalek in, maybe, like to
a
check it out
scout
first,
to
you
go
know,
check it
see if
out?
it's a trap. You know, you
Yeah.
wouldn't just send the whole lot into one tiny little, you know, doorway, you
I
know,
mean, Captain
inside a
Jack is in
TARDIS.
the story,
Yeah.
which, you know, his moments just kind of make me wish I was watching series 1. You know, it's such bait. I really don't. But like I say, I'm not going to get into too much about the Jodie era and the millions of problems it has. This story is basically a rip-off of Remembrance, and it knows it, only incredibly, incredibly stupid, and it's a
Incompetent.
complete insult because Remembrance is such a brilliant story. I
Mm.
will say the drone Daleks, I'm going to call them, they have grown on me over time. I don't hate them as much as I used to, but I don't class them as Daleks. I just think they're a cool thing where maybe, I don't know, humans could salvage Dalek technology and create like fake Daleks to fight back.
Mm.
That's how I picture them. That's an idea I had. I kind of like them in the silver and black, not gonna lie, with the glowing redness, but it might just be because I'm getting so sick and tired of the bronze.
It kind of reminds me a bit of the Supreme Dalek from Planet of the Daleks,
Mm,
with the sort of
yeah.
torchlight and the big lamps. But I just don't like the black. It just looks like one of those compost bins, you know, the big plastic bins.
They do look like they're made of plastic, to be honest.
They really do.
I'm not
And
sure what's
you know,
happened. It's happened even to the bronze
Tron
ones. They
Daleks.
don't seem to look like they're made of metal anymore.
Maybe they're just cheaping out.
Probably
I don't know.
they just haven't painted them in God knows how long.
Probably.
So yeah, so that's both our number 27.
No, that's my 26th, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's paper thin between the stories anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Resolution is our next one.
Yes, our next one is Resolution. Now,
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say is my inner child died when that Dalek was revealed.
It was so bad.
I said to myself, if there was one thing that could at least somewhat make this show watchable, it was the presence of a Dalek. Like I previously said. You couldn't even do that right.
Well, they were trying to do Dalek again, weren't they? Really, but here we had. I mean, the one thing I did like about this story, which is literally just the one thing, and I hate saying literally, but it is, was the mutant sort of clamping on the back of this woman and controlling it.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really creepy, clever idea.
it
It,
was.
it it's just it's just how it
It was
transpired.
executed.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just felt like a really short scene dragged out for a whole episode.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. You know, gotta make everything a female. You've even got a female Dalek.
Yeah, and look at that. Look at the silhouette of that Dalek. I mean, it's very waspish. And where's the mutant? I mean, like, how are you going to fit the
Oh,
mutant
he's
inside
just
that
in
tiny
there
case?
like, oh god, I've got more
Wish I'd
room
gone
in
on a diet.
a cupboard. Like, it's just. I mean, look, I understand it's supposed to be a Dalek that's made out of scrap.
But where's it? Where's the technology come from?
Oh, there were bits of it scattered around, and those parts were hidden away
Oh,
somewhere.
they're so ad hoc. I mean, there's no thought really gone into. I mean, I've only
No,
watched this once, and the once was enough.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's like building the sonic screwdriver from Sheffield spoons. Sheffield steel spoons.
and that's not
It's
even to
ridiculous.
mention how the Dalek was defeated by ancient people like Viking-like tribe. A
Yeah.
Dalek that couldn't be defeated by 21st century top of the range soldiers with the top of the range weaponry, with the top of the range
Oh, that's right.
training.
And they took all the different parts, didn't they, to the four corners of the
Yeah,
earth or something. Yeah,
excuse
that was
me,
it.
isn't Dalekanium supposed to be one of the most impenetrable metals out there? Yeah, let's just take it apart. Look, I've got a screwdriver kit in ancient times. Let's just pull it apart, lads, gently, bit by bit, like. And then somehow the Dalek mutant stayed alive this whole time.
Yeah, for thousands of
For
years, which
yeah, for like, come on, ridiculous. So
out of its casing. Yeah, really.
moving swiftly on from the
Mm,
Chibnall era. So this is where I think we're going to start differing now.
mm.
So actually getting into enjoying doing this now. So what have I done? So I am now on number 25 for
Yeah.
me is Asylum of the Daleks. Now let me explain myself. I have hated this story ever since it was broadcast. And I was really excited. My mother of God, 13-year-old self, I was young, was so excited that them coming back, especially when I saw that the bronze ones were coming back because I was so done with the paradigms. Although I must admit, I do love their updated color scheme.
Mm,
Like, I don't know, you see the ones on the left there, those more crimson ones,
mm.
much better than those very Teletubby colors they had originally.
Yeah, I just didn't like the shape because the hunchback and the sort of tray shelf. It's like you could serve dinner on it, and
Yeah.
I thought they if the silhouette had been slightly more slimmed, and the hunchback wasn't there and the tray shelf thing with the weaponry was not there, would have looked better. I mean, I'm not
Mm.
adverse to the general look of it, but it's yeah, the colors were a bit too primary, and
I'm not gonna
the
lie, I like everything from the neck
chunkiness.
up.
Yeah, I think that's about right. The neck up, absolutely.
Although I'm not fond of the eyes. I
Didn't mind the eyes. I quite like the sort of oval pupil thing. I thought that was quite interesting
mm,
because it reminded me like something from the deep sea or something like that, or
yeah.
a goat's eye or something.
I just think it would
Horse
be
eye.
nice for a change to have different models of Dalek. So like for
Mm,
different purposes.
mm.
Instead of just making them all the same. I mean, look guys, I know the CGI is easy, but come on. It's like copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, it's just like I was like, oh look, they've scattered a few paradigms in there. But yeah. I'd have to get like a pen and like draw them to show you where. But the reason why I hate this story is because one, the very idea of the Daleks having an asylum is ridiculous because we've seen all throughout the show that the Daleks just kill Daleks that can't do their jobs.
Mm.
And, these Daleks are so afraid of the Daleks that they've locked away, they can't go down and actually keep the place under control. So effectively, they've shoved that many insane Daleks down there that they now dare not go down there to do anything about it. You didn't have to cut me off. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the premise is silly, but for me, I quite liked the creepiness of it. Yeah, I know it doesn't make bloody sense. I understand that, but I liked the fact that you had these sort of doolally Daleks and being kept in these sort of dusty crypts and probably being experimented on probably or something. It's just I liked that element to it. I totally get what you're saying, but
there's also a few things outside of the Daleks themselves that I don't like Amy being a total. I mean, she's been a total. Can't say it in case I get muted, but since she first came into the show, but that whole thing with them, never like that. Clara's introduction, sorry, Oswin, Osgood, Clary, Mary Sue introduction, never was fond of that. And how, oh, I've bypassed the compressor and now all the Daleks have forgotten the Doctor until the next episode. Come
Yeah,
on,
that was
Moffat.
stupid. That was stupid.
That was utterly. I
But
remember just sat
I
there.
liked if it wasn't Clara, well, whatever she was, Oswald, just being someone who's been sort of encased and doesn't realize that they've been turned into a mutant.
Yeah, that's quite cool. I wish they'd have taken that further, to be honest. Imagine having the Doctor keep
If
a
it was a
Dalek.
Thal or a Khaled, like going back to the origins kind of thing, if it had sort of kept the race pure rather than converting just anybody, I think that makes more sense to me. But hey ho, that's
But
New Who for
also,
you.
so the Daleks in the asylum clearly aren't mentally stable to still be able to convert other people into Daleks. So I think this is where Doctor Who began to become. Oh, look how cool that is! Don't think about it; just look how cool it is. And it's like that's the trouble when you actually think about it. Yeah, and just I've heard Gary and Az praise this one in their stream, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I wouldn't praise
okay,
it. I mean, the thing is, I enjoyed it enough to forgive a lot of its foibles, so that's why it's not as low as you've put it. So I'm a little
okay,
bit more forgiving in that regards. But obviously, I completely agree with all the complaints that you've made and the criticisms you've made because they are clearly obvious. But I mean, I can forgive the premise if it's entertaining and can offer a sort of a distraction from that sort of terrible concept. But I mean, there are
Also,
some great elements in there.
sorry, I just have to say this. Scaro's back with no explanation.
Yeah.
Your home planet, a burnt cinder circling a dead sun. And now let's flash forward to Matt Smith. Look at the state of it. Yeah, you made it this way. It's like, my God.
Well, maybe the Scaro that the Seventh Doctor destroyed was the Scaro after this. Maybe
Oh, I'm
I
sure
don't
there'll
know. I'm just
be.
making things up
I
as you
know,
talk.
I'm sure. Oh, but there's big Finnish stories. I don't care. I'm going by what's on
In
screen is
universe,
canon.
yeah.
What's on? You shouldn't need a comic book and a bloody audio series to answer questions and fill in gaps.
Yeah,
It's
that's
bad
what people
writing.
at Disney Star Wars do.
Yeah, and no doubt what will happen from now on in the show because of Disney. So, yeah. Anyway, what is your pick for 25?
My pick is Into the Dalek.
Ooh.
I couldn't stand this story at all. I just thought it was ridiculous. It was so cringe. The dialogue was cringe. The acting was cringe. The effects were cringe. The concept itself wasn't bad. I mean, it's just when I was a kid, there used to be. I think it was the Beano or the Dandy? You had the characters called the Numbskulls, which are like little characters inside the human body, and it just kind of reminded me of that. And it's not a new concept. It's nothing new. I mean, it's new in terms of this is the first time it's been done in Doctor Who, but it's so a sort of generic trope of, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or something. And I just thought it's kind of interesting how they have like the Daleks' antibodies trying to eradicate them and sort of booby trap itself. But I just thought I can do without this story. And this was the second story of Capaldi's run, and I was by the end of it fuming at how awful and cringe it was. There's some great bits with Capaldi, but there's some arbitrary deaths in there which could have been avoided. But he was just like, "Oh well, you're dead already, so I'm not going to do anything to help you." It was just very weird. I struggled with this, and I still don't like it to this day. I did a rewatch of it recently, and Noel's channel, and I was just like, no, I can't. I don't think it was as bad as I remembered it, but it was still pretty bad. I just didn't.
But that's probably because what you've seen after it is significantly worse.
There is that. There absolutely is that. But yeah, this was definitely one of the big sort of misses. I had a lot of problems with Moffat's treatment of the Daleks in Capaldi's era, particularly. I think more than Matt Smith's even. But yeah, this was not a good start. I wasn't a great fan of Deep Breath. When it followed this, I thought, okay, we get a Dalek story, and yeah, it was very underwhelming, and it was too comedic, and all the serious parts were just like, are you kidding? But it's a transition into the Dalek. I just thought it looked so cheap. Yeah.
So, do you think we're doing this in a good order? Like people can follow it easy.
What?
So,
the ranking.
Yeah, so like I do my 24, you do your 24. I think it's working.
Yeah. I think as long as people know where we're at. I mean, how are you getting on there, PD? PD's just like leaving comments and moving up.
Oh, great to see you in the chat there, PD.
Yeah. Rusty and Cyberbrick. Don't.
Oh no, don't go on about that. We'll have to mention that when we get to our Cyberman stories. But no, I think what we'll do at the end is I'll just repeat my list again, and then you can repeat your list again once we've talked about all of them.
Yeah.
Just summarize it up, just in case anyone's got lost. But for my number, 8, 27, 26, 25. 20.
So what are your thoughts on Into the Dalek? I mean, unless you want to save that to when you get.
I'll save that for when it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my number 24, it is The Witch's Familiar, The Magician's Apprentice. Daleks being eaten alive by shit. Literally. Their own sewers come to get them. I mean, most of the time they're kind of just in the background doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you get to see the special weapons Dalek and a few classic Daleks. That's nice, but
yeah, that's nice. It's nice. Member berries. Oh, member.
It just makes a mockery of the Daleks. It's just so overly comedic. I mean, there's some great performances from Missy and Michelle Gomez and the pairing that she did with Annoying Woman, Clara, which I enjoyed. But I mean, the Daleks were just treated like a joke. Davros opening his eyes was just, for me, a heresy. Frankly, I put that down to a perception filter. I'm like, there's no way he would have opened his eyes because he doesn't have any.
I know it doesn't make sense, but I thought it was a good scene. I thought it was a good scene, but even as a kid, I was like, no, don't be silly. Like, don't be silly. Like, I don't think he needed to do that to have an emotional moment. But I will admit that the best parts, in fact, the only good parts about this story were the scenes with Peter Capaldi and Julian Bleach as Davros, because they are phenomenal actors. They are above and beyond this show in this at this state. The Daleks were just in the background to die in the most silly way. You had that kind of really cool moment where the Daleks were like, destroy the TARDIS, destroy. You got that really cool music by Murray Gold. But the TARDIS is going to come back because it's Doctor Who. So, I was really looking forward to this. I remember seeing the Series 9 trailer and just seeing the maximum extermination and like, oh my god, the red and gold Supreme Daleks back.
Mm,
Finally, the paradigms have gone completely by this point, you know.
yeah.
So I was really excited, and even the design of the city kind of resembles that of the original 60s.
Yeah, I love that. That was really nice. That was really nice.
And some people like, oh, there's different races of Daleks, so inclusion. I'm like, don't be silly. They're I think that's cool. I
Mm,
think it's cool to have different types of Daleks around the place. I don't mind that at all. But it just serves no purpose to the story at all. It's purely there to go, oh wow. And honestly, this is just absolutely abysmal. By this point, I was thinking of writing a letter to the BBC, like, can you sack this guy?
yeah,
Like,
I mean, I
seriously.
got that way with. I think it was this story. Actually, I think it was after this story that I actually did post on Facebook when I was on Facebook. An open letter to Moffat complaining. Was it this? No, I think it might have been Into the Dalek actually, just railing because I was just so like, what is this shit? And this was just like almost unforgivable, really. But yeah, as I say, I think Moffat really struggled to know what to do with the Daleks under Smith's tenure. But when it came to Capaldi, it was just it almost seemed like he'd just given up and just
Mm.
writing it for comic value.
And that's what I think was Moffat's biggest flaw. He
Mm,
turned the show into a parody of itself.
mm,
Just like, now, don't get me wrong, that worked when he did the Rowan Atkinson thing for Children Need. That was brilliant. But
mm.
it doesn't work for the actual show. And the last thing, and this is why I got so angry at Terry Nation, the last thing you should be doing is making a mockery of the show's deadliest enemy.
Mm.
What are you doing? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
no.
after excuse me, after RTD brought them back with Dalek and made them menacing again, it's like an undoing of all that, you know. I think, well, I have to say, I think there are a couple of scenes, a couple of things with the Daleks that RTD may have done, which might have undermined them a little bit. But Moffat really went to town on that, and I don't think it helps with their image. You know, I think especially when you bring them back after years of people mocking the Daleks, really.
Mm.
Um, especially on comedy sketch shows and things like that.
Well,
And
RTD had managed to undo that, but then Moffat tore it down
yeah,
again within a
yeah, pretty
couple of
much.
years and just
Yeah,
made them a joke again.
yeah.
And it would be nice to get them back onto their top form. But moving swiftly on, so this is my pick for number 24. What's your pick for number 24?
It was this one, which is Familiar and Magician's
Oh,
Apprentice.
well, I don't have to change it then. So would you say you've said everything you want to say, or do you want to add anything?
No, I think we've covered it. Yeah, it was just such a shame, a wasted opportunity. Some good ideas, just I like the Movellans that we saw a little bit of, but that was
No, no,
just so.
that wasn't this story.
Was that not this one?
No, that was the pilot in series
Oh
10.
God, it was. Yeah,
It was
I
just a
don't know
very
why I've
brief
connected it to
cameo.
this. Yeah, but I haven't seen it. I mean, I've kind of buried a lot of these episodes in my mind. So
Yeah,
if I
I
do
don't blame
conflate
you.
these things, yeah.
In
But I
fact,
mean, I did like seeing the Movellans, and I thought maybe if they were in this, it would have been
yeah, but it was member
better.
berries. They were just there just cause.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know why. Yeah.
Okay, so
Anyway.
number 23. So we are getting into our first classic Who story for me. And watching this with you a few weeks back kind
Yeah.
of reinforced this. We have, and the clue is quite literally in the title, Death to the Daleks, where Terry Nation eradicated every last bit of tension and respect the audience may have had for them. A Dalek having a panic attack and blowing up because having anxiety causes explosions. Don't you know?
Overload.
Pretty much. I mean, this story, I think the only reason this isn't lower on my list is because of Pertwee and Liz Sladen.
Mm.
And I don't remember it being as bad as it was, but when I watched it with you, I was just like, what even is this?
Yeah,
The,
and the
the
host
Daleks
played.
aren't threatening at all.
And the hose pipe and the
hose
yeah.
pipe. That was more threatening than all the Daleks
Actually,
put
yeah, you're not
together.
wrong.
That
You're not
was more
wrong.
that was more of a monster than anything that was in this story. It was
Yeah.
just, the Daleks were so sidelined. I think the city was the main villain, wasn't it? The
Yeah, yeah.
thing that they
Which
had to fight. And I
which is
know
like the
that
crystal maze, like the precursor to the crystal maze.
absolutely, but I
Yeah.
I know Nick Briggs loves this story, and he always goes on about, oh, what would it be like if we took the Daleks' guns away? They get crappy machine guns and still get the shit kicked out of them. It goes nowhere. It does nothing interesting, and it feels like the Daleks are there because Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
And they have a really nice design, which is a shame, you know?
Mm.
Really, really nice design, but I all I do is when I watch this is laugh because, I don't know if I'm laughing in a good way or in a bad way. And the female prisoner has escaped. I have failed. Oh my god, I'm definitely getting fired. Help me, please. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on for me. So this comes in at, oh god, 20 8 7 6 5 4 3 20 my number 23. So what's your number 23, Lee?
Mine is the Dalek Master Plan.
Okay.
And the only real reason for that is it's incomplete. And I haven't seen the full story. I haven't actually watched the Telly Snaps version or
Oh
anything
well,
like that.
on your Lost in Time, you've got the
I haven't got to it yet, so I will watch that
I
probably
would
this.
say the what we have
Mm.
just makes you kind of want the rest of it, and that's why I haven't put it so low.
Yeah, I mean, I would do that, but I would be disingenuous if I'd said that I'd really
No.
made the time to watch it, and I haven't. So, I mean, I know it's the first appearance of Nicholas Courtney. I know it's Sarah Kingdom in this, and it's a shame. It's one of those things. I would love to have the whole thing in order to praise it properly and to put it higher up the list. But I think it's unfair on complete stories to do that. So that's really the only sort of real reason. So I mean, I
Mm.
I put the others lower than this because I genuinely hated them. So I put this as really sort of my sort of lowest because in terms of not seeing it in its full context. So this really is where I've dealt with the ones that I've sort of really disliked.
Mm.
So those are the ones that I really dislike. Now we're sort of
So
just
it's all uphill from
migrating.
here.
A little, yeah, it sort of gradually increases in
Yeah, we
quality.
might actually start enjoying
Yeah.
doing this stream any moment now because it's been
Yeah.
quite draining
What a
actually to go
slog.
through all the things that I hate, but it's not quite over for me
Mm.
because coming in at my number 22 spot is The Chase.
Ah.
Yeah. Now I understand that a lot of people love this one, and look, it's Hartnell with Ian and Barbara, so it's going to be watchable for me to a certain extent no matter what.
Mm.
But it's how the Daleks are portrayed in this story. A Dalek jumping off a boat for no reason. A
Mary
Dalek
Celeste.
getting picked up by an animatronic Frankenstein and bloody Super Saiyan, John Cena bloody takedown, smash to the floor, bloody, you know, it's like, oh, watch out, oh, and just all the silliness and the all chasing them through time and space and never actually being able to catch them even though they're right behind them. The mechanoids are cool, but even that just feels like, by that point it's the last episode and you just kind of think, what's the point of this?
Yeah, I mean it's silly. It's really silly.
Yeah.
It's goofy. But having said that, there are some elements that I think are quite entertaining. So I mean, for me,
Yeah.
it's a little bit higher up. But yeah, I totally get it. This is almost Moffating the Daleks pre-Moffat, isn't
Yeah.
it? You know.
It is. It is. I'm just gonna say it, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if this is where he got a lot of his ideas from. you
Wouldn't
know.
be surprised at all.
But
No.
in saying that, it gets off to quite a strong start, I think, especially when that Dalek is forcing its way up through the sand. I thought that was really cool.
Mm,
The way they did that with a model and they forced it up through the sand. And yeah, it's really when they get to that haunted house that it just kind of like, what is even going on?
mm.
Like, and you kind of forget why the Daleks are chasing them in the first place.
Yeah.
But we can't ignore this is the first time the Daleks have had a bit of a redesign. They have the slats now,
Hmm.
and honestly, I think this design is one of the longest lasting. I would say it's the second longest next to the bronze. Went right the way to evil of the Daleks, and I actually think this might be my second favorite design. I love their sleekness. I love they just look very ahead of their time and
Mm.
like something that truly is innovative to me.
Yeah.
And I think the sets in this story are immaculate, especially
Oh,
the
the sets are
Mechanoid
beautiful.
City.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I think
definitely.
I've got a very good photo here.
Yeah, it's very. I always love that that arch, that sort of asymmetrical arch. I use
Mm,
that in I've used that sort of look in the design that I did for Scottish Davros's channel when I did his title sequence, and I use that sort of arch um, because it's reminiscent of the arches in the Daleks in the
mm.
Dalek City where you've got the that asymmetrical arch. I just really like that. It's great 60s kind of futurist architecture. I think it's great.
Okay, so what is your number 22, Lee?
Victory of the Daleks.
Ah, yes, this is one that I think I'm going to have many agreements with you.
Yeah, I mean, I like the premise again. It's the Second World War, Churchill, and then like they got this amazing new secret weapon, and then it's just like, uh-oh. And then but it's the game the Daleks being serving tea and things like that. I just think, crikey, they're really debasing themselves for this one.
Would you care for some tea? And I'm like, oh my god, guys, you need to fix the voice modulator there. What? I think I think his voice broke. Like, what happened
It
there?
went a bit camp.
Yeah.
Again,
Excuse me,
I
I have other tasks to perform, you ginger. So,
it's very on the nose. But the fact that you've got these sort of iconic Yahtzee kind of monsters being used by the Allies,
mm,
it kind of turns it on its head. So it's
although I'd
quite
be
interesting.
lying if I said I didn't love their design.
I think that was cool.
Yeah.
I did like that. Um, yeah, it's got some great bits to it. There are some elements that I think are just a bit ridiculous, especially what is it, Spitfires in space, and uh, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
No, I mean, look, I'm going to get onto this soon, but there is actually one story at my number 21, which is for me Into the Dalek.
Mm,
So this is my number 21. And yeah, I think this is blatantly a rip-off of Dalek, but
mm,
just so much poorly. I will admit the scene once again, I think Capaldi's acting really elevates this, especially when he's talking to the Dalek. I think there's an interesting idea here.
mm,
This could have been a very big missed opportunity for the first ever Dalek companion, which I would have been fully down for, which they kind of did do, but he just showed up again randomly in Twice Upon a Time with no explanation of how he got there.
mm.
Once again, hundreds of thousands of years later, gosh, didn't realise Daleks lasted that long.
There you go. Well, I mean, if you got one crawling around on Earth out of its shell in the Chibnall era, I guess
Oh,
anything's
yeah,
possible.
anyway, but I
Yeah,
mean,
silly.
it's a cool idea. I do really love the scene where the other Daleks come for him and he just blasts the crap out of them. Under attack from a Dalek, I must be seeing things. Get my specs. Like, just just gets really camp and silly towards the end. And yeah, being shrunk down and going inside it, somehow they walk through the eye. I'm not
Yeah,
even
like it's a
sure how that's
plasma thing, not a
possible. I
lens.
don't know.
Yeah, it's like an energy thing instead of an actual lens thing,
So
I
that's why
guess.
you can shoot a paintball at it and it gets
Don't
splodged.
know.
Like, oh,
Vision impaired.
I don't think they even
I
know.
have something in my eye.
Yeah, for reasons I have to keep that out the video. But yeah, so that's my number 21. What's your number 21?
Daleks in Manhattan, Evolution of the Daleks.
Okay.
I just could not get on with this at all. Pig people, Daleks. I mean, I wasn't that. I mean, the Black Daleks, the Cult of Skaro, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
was okay
Dalek
with.
Sec and the Cult of
Yeah,
Skaro.
I was all right with that part. It was just like the humanoid Dalek thing. It just looked painfully ridiculous.
It hasn't
Uh,
aged particularly well, I will
no,
say.
the dodgy American accents and all of this,
Yes.
and
They didn't have to do that. They could have
mm,
had a British guy in America. The actor even came out and said like, "Oh, it was so annoying." And he
mm.
didn't feel he could do it that well, and he really can't. But I'm not blaming him for that.
I mean, for me, it just looked like, um, the Dalek invasion, but set in the 1930s for some
Mm,
reason. I mean, interesting concepts again, but for me, I think this is one of RTD's sort of weaker era period things. I
I think
just,
it is. I think it is for most people. I think when I've seen people rank the RTD ones, this one always comes at the bottom.
I can see why. For me, I thought it was a real slog to get through. I couldn't understand why this was a two-parter. And I just didn't like the design. I just thought, again, you got some good ideas, good concepts in there, but it's the it was just the presentation of the execution of it, and then you got all these sort of. It almost seems tacky, having these. It almost looked like an audition to be a Dalek, the theater and all that.
Mm,
It
mm,
just that's what it looked like to me. I mean, it like stars in their eyes, but with Daleks.
mm.
I just couldn't get on with this, and Andrew Garfield was all right.
Yeah.
Could have been a companion, but we probably wouldn't
Oh,
have had.
that I mean, people would be begging for that now.
Yeah, that
You
would have been
know, I
good.
mean, was this the start of his career? Maybe. I mean, we all
Yeah,
know what he went on to do.
yeah,
So
incredibly.
now on for number 20. Mine is Victory of the Daleks. So first Moffat story, the first of a new era. Thank God I've gotten all the Moffat stories out the way now.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
the
forgot to
fir-
mention the paradigm Daleks. Yeah,
yeah. Well, don't worry, I'll do that for you. Um, the first half is a rip off of Power of the Daleks, but nowhere near as good. I love Winston Churchill. I love the actor who
mm.
plays him, and
Yeah,
I
spot
must
on.
admit, I do really like Matt and Amy in this story.
Mm.
I don't know what it is; they just seem much better than they do in some other stories. I do like the World War II theme. I think Daleks in World War II is something that fans have dreamed of. It's just a shame it feels so underused here,
Mm.
and you know, now we go to the Paradigm Dalek. So my reaction was, "Oh, cool! A white Supreme Dalek. Look at it. It's big. It's cool. A blue. Okay, blue. It looks a bit plasticky, but an orange. I mean, that looks better. Orange. Yellow. Yellow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now that has to be okay. You're taking the piss now. Or what's next? Pink. I would. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that they're erased. Mark Gatiss, I do really like a lot of your scripts, but this is not one of your best. And look, just putting their design aside, I just feel like the story is quite rushed. I think it's not even 45 minutes, it's only 40 minutes. It's that quick.
Mm.
It's over and done with before you know it. And it's not the worst. Like it at least the Daleks actually win for once. But I really didn't like how they blew up the old Daleks, which deeply offended me at the time because my 11 my
Dalek lives
10
matter.
No, my 10-year-old self was like, I don't like these. I prefer the old Dalek. And they're just like, yeah, just blow them up. And I'm like, no. Like, that just felt like a huge slap in the face there. And I'm like, seriously, this is what you replace them with?
Yeah, they look like bargain basement bin Daleks, you know.
Oh,
I mean, I like the imposing bulk of them kind of thing, but
yeah,
again, the silhouette is just not right. The neck upwards is all right. I
yeah.
like,
Well,
but
actually, the
everything else.
initial reveal image in Doctor
Mm,
Who magazine was only the neck upwards of the Supreme Dalek. So that looked really cool.
mm,
And I think that's captured in this picture. It does look really cool, but it's just then we actually saw them and it's like, oh, I'm not so
mm.
fond of that now. They look too streamlined. They look too plastic. It's like it would have been nice if you'd have given them a bit of a weathering or a metallicness, something, just something to make them look less furniture, like modern
Mm.
architecture, modern furniture. That's what they look like, you know.
Yeah, I like the voices. I like the deep booming voices.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. They
That
should
was
keep the modulator like that. I've always preferred the deeper voice.
mm.
It's much more imposing. You know, the earth will die screaming. You know, it's just like brilliant. But yeah, so Victory of the Daleks for me. So glad I've got the Moffat and Chibnall Dalek stories out of the way. The rest of this video, I'm going to have a blast.
Good.
So, what is your number 20, Lee?
Death to the Daleks, which we covered.
Okay, I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah, it was a bit of a slog. It was a bit of a. I love Pertwee. It's my second favorite Doctor. I just thought the supporting cast were a bit annoying, a bit weak. I thought the Daleks were a bit ridiculous, and that they just fell for like the oldest trick in the book as well, which is just goes to show that they were just either too arrogant or just too stupid to realize they've been duped.
Mhm.
And I didn't mind like the city thing, all the puzzles and everything they had to solve. I thought it was quite entertaining. But yeah, just yeah, that picture really does say it all, really.
I mean, I just don't understand why their creator diminished them in such a way. That's
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's kind of a bit. I mean, like Terry Nation is very sort of hit and miss at the best of time. I mean, even on Blake Seven, you know, like the first season of Blake Seven was written by Terry Nation, but really behind the scenes, I think he wrote about like half of it, but just the sketch of the outline. And I think Chris Boucher was the script editor, and he really finished off the scripts and actually made it what it was. So yeah, just I think it highlights really a lot of not Terrence Dicks, Terry Nation's problems as a writer. I just don't think he fully commits, and he undermines himself. I mean, he even called them robots in Destiny, you know, which is just a bit
oh,
wrong. Yeah.
that's why Destiny isn't as high as it could be for me.
Well, we'll come to that one. We'll come to that
Yeah. So right, we're into the top 20 now. Just realised. So
one. Hey,
coming in at number 19 for me is Planet of the Daleks.
interesting.
Now, there are quite a few things that I actually like about this one. I love
Mm,
what they did with the Thals, you know,
yeah.
kind of really giving them some character development. And the Thal that stood the closest to Pertwee is a recurring actor throughout the show quite a bit. I really like him.
Mm.
I love Pertwee's costume.
Got
I
it. Love
love
gorgeous Jack.
I love Michael Wisher playing the Daleks. This is his
Mm,
first time playing them.
mm,
Well, technically Frontier in Space, but we're not counting that in this video. They get a brief cameo at the end of
yeah.
that. And yeah, this is when they come full into force. And for for a story that's meant to be carrying on straight from Frontier, it's just a rehash of the original Dalek story, but nowhere near as good. It seems to play it very safe for
Yeah.
me. And it's almost as if Terry Nation just said, because this was his first time writing for the Daleks since the Daleks' master plan. So you'd think he'd want to come back in a big way, but instead he kind of just said, "What worked for me before?" You know,
Repeat, rinse and repeat.
yeah, and that's what this feels like. And I know it has the really cool head of the Supreme Council design, but he only shows up for the final episode, and by that point, the Daleks, you get the gist of everything. I thought it was a cool idea. It's the Dalek version of Tomb of the Cybermen, really. The ice tomb preserving them and all that.
But can we just agree, like the Supreme Dalek, like, is a badass. It doesn't take shit from anyone.
You have failed, and I don't know if you know this, but I don't accept failure. It's just like,
Sass.
and all the
So
other Daleks
sass.
like, gosh, you don't have to be a dick about it.
He is so gay. But
Probably.
I love the design. I mean, maybe not so much the torchy eye, but
I thought it was cool as a kid that it lights up when it talks, although they didn't get it to work well, did they? It kind of
no,
just
it
went
was a
off
bit
and
out
on
of
whenever
sync.
it wanted to. 'Cause I think someone was probably inside the Dalek just clicking a button. Like,
But it had the big lamps, which I liked.
yes,
and the color
I do love
scheme.
those.
Yeah.
Makes for a very awesome figure, actually.
Yeah, you've got that one, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you, if we can find one of those at the toy fair, I think I'll definitely get you it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm not saying that this story is bad. But I also think this is where the Daleks began to get a bit silly, like pushing the Daleks into a pool of ice and just killing them instantly. And they're so helpless. Like when they grab them, they're like, assist, please
Yeah,
help me.
and
Oh my god.
when the doctor's wrestling with the Daleks,
Yeah,
he's pulling his funny face. It's
I know. I honestly thought he was going to go hi and just like knock it on its side or something. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they may as well because but like I say, there's some stuff to like about this story, and
It's
there's
got the
also
charm. It's got all the
yeah,
charm.
it's got the Pertwee era charm, so I think that's why I can forgive it for a lot of things. So, what is your number 19, Lee?
My number 19 is also Planet of the Daleks.
Oh, okay, I don't have to move.
No. That's kind of in sync with that one.
So, anything to add on?
No, I think you covered it. Really, I mean, it is a bit of a rehash.
Oh, I did also
see the
forget.
files.
I forgot about the bit of the Daleks releasing COVID on themselves, and they couldn't leave that room.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
did I just say the unknown virus of unknown origins?
Yeah.
Bugger, this video's flagged. Shit. We can never leave. Never, never. I didn't even bring a mask.
Put them in isolation.
I always thought that was particularly grim, though, how they got all that disgusting stuff in the glass box.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and the fungus that grows on Joe's hand.
Ooh.
I remember I met Katie Manning, and she said, "Oh, that was the most horrible thing she ever had to do." When she was filming that, it made her itch. Actually, just having all that prosthetic on her, and she said it was horrible.
Like wearing one of those.
It smelled really horrible as well.
Yeah.
So.
And back in the day, you don't know what the hell they made that stuff of. Really.
Oh god, probably not something that went by the safety guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, get some vinegar and some bleach and mix it together. It's
lovely. Yeah. Put some anthrax in there. Lovely. Bit of asbestos. Lovely.
Okay, so I know this one's going to upset you now. No, I've switched them around. Okay,
Ooh.
So coming in at number 18 for me is the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know this is going to make the fans go, what? But just hear me out, because don't forget we are including the Peter Cushing films. Now, I saw the Peter Cushing film long before I saw this, and so I knew it wasn't going to be as good production-wise, but I was like, it's the same story, it'll hold me. Oh boy, was I wrong.
It goes on long.
It drags. Like I say, Ian, Barbara, wonderful. Big moment for the show, Susan departing.
Yeah.
The Daleks
great speech from
great speech. Hartnell's best speech. I can't help but feel like that was actually Hartnell himself, because he was upset to see.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, to see her leave. The Daleks, they look really great. I kind of like them on those raised slats, and I also like them on. I like the silver eyes. I don't know why. I hate.
Weren't some of these? No, ignore me. I'm just.
That's all right.
I just love the terrible. I don't know if it's a painting or if it's like uh, a blown up photograph that just looks really wobbly at the back there, like a backdrop.
Oh yeah, it's a
Yeah,
backdrop.
yeah,
It's a backdrop. You can see. I mean, if you this was the best photo I could get. You can see the studio off to the left.
yeah.
It's just
Bless
like,
them.
yeah, they're not outside. Don't be fooled by that. I mean, if you are fooled by that, then fair enough. But it's like, oh,
It,
and
it,
that
it,
that
it
Dalek
has
at
a
the back is a cardboard cutout.
yeah, but you can also say that this story is quite convoluted. It's got some great scenes in there, like with the guy sacrifices himself to save Barbara
Yeah,
uh, and the other girl. But it kind of goes all over the place. It kind of reminds me a little bit of War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. So you've
that
got
might
like
have
the invasion.
inspired it.
I think that did definitely. And I think there's definitely some elements there, but it goes all over the. I love the scenes in London. You know, you've got the classic scene of the Daleks going over the Waterloo Bridge. You've got
Mm,
the Dalek emerging out of the Thames. You've got what else? You got scenes of them just running through London and just taking the shoes off, and then you've
yeah.
got like Trafalgar Square, and you've got the Daleks roaming around and roaming around the
The only thing that
Victoria and
really
Albert.
is when they have those running scenes is that bloody drumming.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I thought it added a bit of tension. But yeah, I think we were sort of viewing it with sort of modern day eyes, which you
Mm.
can't blame us for because
No,
that's
I'm
where
not. I'm
we're
not going to. I just feel as though the
we're
ending was rushed.
Mm.
It's kind of, especially compared to how good it is in the Cushing. See, that's the problem. I think it's because in my mind, the Cushing version is the definitive. So this was never going to live up to that.
And this is, I think, longer than the film because it's what, over 8 episodes,
Oh,
or is it?
it's something like that. It's
Or
it's
6? I can't
something I could
remember.
never sit through in one go.
Yeah, it's drag, and then you got that weird monster thing which turns up
That
for
just
some
kind of
reason.
appears. You can see why they cut that out of the film because they
Yeah,
realized it
that's
made
the
no
thing about the
sense.
film. It's much more condensed, and colorful and big budget. So you've got more of a story, a properly crafted story, not just sort of thrown together quickly for a TV serial. And the film, I think, really sort of elevates the story.
Mm.
It makes it more compelling, I think,
Well, we'll save that for when we
especially
get
with the
onto
Robo
it.
Men. Yeah.
But unfortunately, another thing that ruined this for me was the Daleks' voices. They just kill him. It's like, and they sounded so good in the first one. So I'm just not really sure what happened. I guess they were still finding their feet with the modulator.
Mm.
Very dark scene at the start with the Roberman literally drowning itself.
Yeah.
Hey, nothing unsuitable for kids, right?
Yeah. Well,
It's like, oh,
that's the
that's
great
a
thing.
nice thing to see at 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning, a Saturday evening. Just
Well,
yeah, a guy just walking into water.
kids weren't a bunch of pussies back then.
No, no, kids. Look, it was post-war. Okay, kids had to be ready for anything, and it was just
That's
like,
it.
oh, guy killing himself. That's normal. The neighbor down the road did the same thing,
Cold War Daleks. What do you want?
literally. So, what do you? I'm take it this story's in the same place for you.
No, it's slightly higher up. I did
Okay.
actually move it. I had it a lot higher up, and then I thought about it some more. I was like, no, actually, I think if we're going to include the films, I think I really thought about how long it dragged.
Mm,
Even though it's an important story, it's a good, heartful story. It still did drag for me, and I think it could have benefited from the editors of the film coming in and turn it into a 3-part serial or a 4-part serial rather than
mm.
whatever.
Okay, so what's your number 18?
It's The Chase.
Okay.
I placed it there because even though it's silly, it does entertain to a point. I think it still has that sort of charm about it, and it has some nice, cool moments, especially how it ends with Ian and Barbara. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's silly. I know it's silly, but it's a bit of fun, you know. So I couldn't put it too low down, but there we are.
No, absolutely. So for number 17, now this is the one that's going to upset you.
Ooh, ooh, it's gonna be Destiny of the Daleks.
It's Destiny of the Daleks.
Oh
Now,
no.
I have to say, on my most recent rewatch, I really enjoyed it. It's
Mm.
just fun. It took me back to when I was a kid. I enjoyed this story as a kid. It's only when I got older I kind of realized the problems it had.
Yeah, Davros's voice for a start, and the mask is
Yeah,
to
well, he
me.
can.
I
I
mean,
feel sorry for David Goodison. He
yeah.
cannot speak through that mask that is just suffocating him. You can tell. And yeah, that really is a shame that Michael just wasn't available.
Yeah, really was.
But
But
then
I
again,
love the design of the base and Scarrow.
mm, oh
Um,
yeah, like, that's why I chose that picture. I love the control room. I think this is one of the few occasions they really make good use of the quarry. I mean, was that a quarry? Because
mm,
I think that
yeah,
filming location was very unique. It had sand. It had those
it
kind of.
was. It was actually by the sea. If you
I thought
actually,
so.
yeah, so you get a lot of windiness to it, which is quite nice.
Yeah, and I do think that where the Magellan ship lands, especially that
Oh,
connects
that's
to
so
that kind
great.
of lake,
Mm.
I thought that looked very cool. And those sort of sand dunes
And the way
almost.
it drills into the ground, I love that.
Yes, that no, that was brilliant. I really did love that as a kid.
I mean, I know the Movellans like look like disco aliens, but I really liked them because they were very ambiguous
Hmm.
in more ways than one. But I think they were like neither good nor bad, you know. But
Well, they're not really because they're machines. They're just
yeah, they're
they
just
don't really have
logic.
any
Yeah.
concept of
I
good
mean,
or
I don't
bad.
know what logic circuits you would have as a robot that requires you to have disco hair, but anyway. Um,
Yeah, it was the
I
70s.
I like the Movellan cast in this. I like the little sort of battle between those two,
And
and I love
very
Romana's
diverse,
interaction.
wasn't it?
Was yeah,
You know, I
absolutely
mean, lots of people like to say, "Oh, Doctor Who's never been diverse until now."
rubbish.
It's like, have you seen that? You clearly haven't seen Destiny of the Daleks, then, have you?
Hmm. You
It's
got
like,
a black leader, and you got a female second in command.
yeah, I just never even thought of these things when I was a kid. I just
Well, no,
thought, yeah.
because you didn't have to, because you just accepted it for what it was. Yeah.
Mm. I think Tom is on top form.
Oh, he's
I
amazing.
love the different props and the
Mm.
different colors they have. You know,
Yeah.
I like that every Dalek seems to be individual in this story. That's why I'd always be looking out for, oh, which one's which.
It's like a sort of ranking, really, isn't it? Like you see, like on soldiers with their sort of epaulets and their stripes and things. So,
Mm. But yeah, the problems that I have with this story are obviously they talk of the Daleks as if they're robots, and it takes the Fourth Doctor to find a bit of chewing gum in the desert to realize, oh yes, the Daleks were organic life forms. It's like, Doctor, it's only been 3 years. Like Christ, since you went back to their bloody
well,
creation.
3 years in our time, but I mean, we don't know
Oh,
in
the Doctor
between.
never forgets the
Yeah.
Daleks.
Well,
Like,
maybe
come on, Terry.
he was just like being blasé about it because he's the doctor,
Oh.
doesn't care.
But aside from that, there are just so many other things to love about this story. Like, Romana Two's costume,
Oh,
perfect
brilliant!
female Doctor costume. Why
Mirroring
hasn't it
his
been done?
beautiful.
Like I say, I can almost
Yeah.
forgive the shoddy treatment of the Daleks and even how they just get blown up in that ridiculous way at the end, just because I think the story is so fun.
It is
But
fun.
I can't put it any higher for the reasons I've mentioned.
Yeah. Well, I'll go more into it when I get to where I've placed it because
So,
it is an important story for me because it was the
yeah,
first
so
one.
I think we're on 17 now. So what is your number 17?
The Evil of the Daleks.
Okay.
I did enjoy this when we watched it. Buying the animated version, the animation of the Daleks was very good, but the actual sort of characters were just a bit two-dimensional in more ways than one. I like the setting. I like the house that they're in. I thought the premise was a bit odd. um, I think it's I think, well, it's my second favorite Troughton Dalek story, I think.
Well, there was
Um,
only two.
yeah, so it had to go somewhere. But I think I lost count how many times I went through those bloody saloon doors.
God,
That drove me nuts.
that was when we were watching it. When it was like, seriously, could they not put some better doors on this thing? Like, it's just like,
But I like the sort of cute Daleks that were just like
oh yeah, the
sort of like children, and they were great. Um I don't,
I just
did we know what actually did any of them survive? We don't know. Did they?
one did at the end.
Yeah.
It just kind of like looked up at the TARDIS, just like at the end of Power.
Yeah.
You know, whether that was in the original or they just added that in the animation, I don't know.
I'd like to see them return. Yeah. I mean, I really didn't give a crap about the human characters in this half the time. I just thought they were really annoying for the best part.
Yeah.
They were just like insufferable. Even the maid, I was just like, you know, Jamie was great.
I feel like this would have been better if we'd have had the original footage. The house bits would have
That's
been a lot better.
We can only judge it by what we've got, and what we've got is the animation for the most part. I like the Emperor Dalek.
Mm,
I thought he was cool. I like the design of that. I even quite like the set, which is quite simple, really, but the geometry of it was quite nice. Um, I thought the Daleks were quite sinister in this, but you pointed out when we were watching it that you thought that the voice of that
the
Dalek was the best, and I
honest to
agree.
God, like that guy can scream. Like, do you remember when they were on Skaro and he's just like, you know, he told the Daleks what to do, and one of the Daleks goes, "Why?" And he's like, "Who spoke? Who questioned the Dalek command?" And it's like, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
Like, oh my God, it's like working for Amazon.
yeah. The Daleks were absolutely brilliant in this. They really. It was the human element that let the story down, and the
Mm,
setting of it being in the Victorian period was interesting. They could have done more with that, I think, but I don't know. It was kind of claustrophobic in that mansion house. I just think,
yeah,
I would like to have seen a bit more of outside of that, and you know, it's very flawed. It's very flawed, and I didn't care about the characters at all. That's difficult when you're trying to resonate with them. Wanting them to succeed. You just think, there you go. Are they dead yet?
yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to 16.
Hmm.
And for me, I can't believe I'm doing this, but that is actually Stolen Earth Journey's End. I know, right? What?
Ooh.
Jack's putting a Russell T Davis Dalek story this low? Well, I am, because I don't want people to misunderstand this. I do really like this story.
Mm.
It's very much a character piece. I think it does a good job of closing the fourth season. I think it does a good job of bringing all the characters together in a really satisfying way, developing the Doctor, just doing what RTD does best, and that's writing characters in a very,
PD Rich enjoyed it. There you
yeah,
go.
in a very sort of character driven
We're not
way.
ignoring you, PD. We're just so in the moment. Don't worry. We're
Sorry, I
reading.
can't even see the chat because I'm sharing trying to work the PowerPoint here. Um, Julian Bleach is fantastic as Davros, second best to Michael Wisher, although that is very close. I
Mm.
think the scenes where he's kind of showing the Doctor who he is, just how many more? Just think how many have died in your name. Is just it just chills me to the bone, and it
I
gets
like the
my
continuity as well with his
with his
gauntlet
hand. Yeah,
hand.
I
Yeah,
love it. That see, you can tell that they were fans,
yeah.
and they were like, they wanted to bring him back. They wanted to do it properly.
And you can see he's got eyes in there somewhere, but they're so shrunken
They're
and
so shrunken. Yeah, they're not opening anytime soon. I'm sorry.
no. Well,
The
not that.
mask, the mask is significantly better in this than it is
Mm,
in The Witch's Familiar.
mm,
I don't know what it is. I think it looks more like flesh, and the way it's kind of hanging. I think they've captured it so well, and the bionic eye and the chair.
mm,
But they've got all of these wonderful things. But the thing that this story does a disservice to the most is the Daleks themselves,
mm.
and that's the problem. It Yeah, they show up, they take over the whole world, and it's all cinematic, blockbuster, Hollywood badassness that some Classic Who fanatics hate because that's not what Doctor Who is, I say. It's not what Doctor Who is at all. Yeah, well, everyone loved it and it was awesome, so shut up. Um, it does the whole baiting regeneration, which I didn't like, but aside from that, it
Mm.
just it's the way the Daleks are defeated. It's played off as such a joke to even when I was sat there going, "Oh, that's a bit silly." As a kid, as 8 years old, yes, 8 years old. Let that sink in. So
Shut up.
I love the Crucible. I think it's cool. I love the design of all the inner of the ship. The dungeon all lit up red, and how Dalek Khan's on that sort of podium.
Mm.
I like so many things about it, but I just feel as though the Daleks deserved more of a presence in this story, which I feel this is when they began to lose that presence.
Well, I think it's because they focus so much on the reveal of Davros, and then he chews up the scenery, so everything sort of
Even
gets
he
pushed
was
to the
even
periphery.
he was underplayed.
Mm.
I know, but even he was underplayed. He only seemed to really just be chilling in the background. He didn't really do much, and we
Well, he
only
was a
really
prisoner, really, to
yeah,
the
I
Daleks.
know, but even then, we only saw him
Mm.
when we had those moments with him and the Doctor, and then it's like I was left wanting more, even as a kid, and so I really do I love this story, but as a Dalek story, I have to put this here because I think it is extremely overrated, and I think it does
Mm.
do the Daleks a bit of a disservice in terms.
Oh,
But just wish the Daleks had been handled a bit better for me. So, what is your number 16?
my number 60, Asylum of the Daleks.
Okay, thank God
Um,
we're getting this one out of the way.
yeah.
I can't even find
um,
it.
so this, that's as good as it gets for the Moffat era, I think, when it comes to the Daleks, just because there's so many of them. And like I said, it was good to see the special weapons Dalek, even though it was just there in the background. But we did see it move. There was that. And I thought the creepy element of it was good. Like I said before about the concept of it was quite interesting. I know it doesn't make any bloody sense, but I found elements of it enjoy the sort of creepier elements. It wasn't by any means good. I mean,
Mm,
this is on my tier thing. This is in the okay
yeah.
section.
Well,
After
same.
this, it
I'm
goes.
still in the yellow.
Yeah, and this is going into the next one goes into the good section. So yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about it. I mean, it annoyed me that the Oswin character. If it was a Thal or some other character, that would have been good. But not, this is the whole sort of impossible goal thing. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so coming into 15 now, we have Army of Ghost Doomsday for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to see the Daleks again. As a kid, I was like, oh my God, they're back and a black Dalek. How cool is that? And oh yeah, there are these things called Cybermen there in the background, getting the shit kicked out of them in a hilarious way.
One of the greatest throwdowns in Doctor Who history, though, isn't it? The
I mean, was
sass was
it?
off the charts.
Was it though? I mean,
I
the
liked it. I thought it was,
Cybermen didn't stand much of a chance, did they?
but they were, yeah, but it was all about talk, just giving it their
I would
PR,
rather have handles than a whisk. If we ever need some scones or a toilet unblocked, we will contact you. It's like, go watch those parodies, guys. They're absolutely brilliant.
They're great.
But yeah, As I've grown up though, which I hate growing up, but as I've grown up, I've kind of realized that maybe this was a little bit too soon, especially after the finale of series 1, and it just kind of goes to further prove that the contract that New Who has with Terry Nation is definitely every year.
Mm.
But at least, and I've always said this, at least with Russell T Davies, there has always been a consistent narrative between the Daleks. There's always something that hints at the episode that came before. So it feels like a continuous story. When you
Mm.
get to Moffat, it's just kind of all over the place. It's this happens and that happens. Now they're doing this with no explanation. So I appreciate that, they linked these Daleks to the Time War. Obviously, they think the Emperor's still alive until Rose says, yes, me, a middle-class teenage girl, actually destroyed the Dalek Emperor, and the Daleks just believe her, which is, it's like, God of all Daleks, and I destroyed him. Ha ha! You will be Wait a minute. Hold on, that makes absolutely no sense. What are you talking about? You really think a stuck-up little snobby bitch like you could kill the Dalek Emperor? What, you don't believe me? Of course I don't believe you, it's ludicrous. Have some sense, woman. It's like, literally, they just believe her because
So
it's
true.
like, "Oh, no, wait, I detect her pheromones, she's not lying, in fact, this is actually turning her on just talking about it." It's like, it's a bit silly. Then the Doctor walks in, you've got that great scene, and it's fun. I love the introduction to Dalek Sec. I think the Genesis Arc is a cool idea, like a prison ship, but it's all just the battle happens very quickly, and then it's all just, oh, Daleks get sucked through into the void in a very silly and comical way. But we know that this story is mostly there to say goodbye to Rose and have the audience weeping in tears.
Mm.
The
The
Daleks,
Genesis arc looked a bit silly,
yeah, I
with all
know.
the Daleks just
But like I
spunking
say,
out there.
once again, Daleks sidelined. They're kind of just there. I still like
The
it.
contractual obligation story for the
Yeah,
Daleks,
pretty much. It's like, oh god, in for another round. Yes, I called my boss. I tried to get an extension on the yearly contract. She said, "Hell no, we're
You
making
should
far too much."
unionize.
I know.
Unionize!
You should go on a strike.
Unionize!
It's like, yeah. So that's all I really have to say about this story. Fun, but not particularly great.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on that.
So your number 15.
It's the Stolen Earth Journey's End.
Okay.
So quite similar, but yeah, it's funny because there's a point when I quit smoking and I was on these patches, and I can't remember if it was before or after I'd watched this. I had a dream about Reality Bomb,
Hmm.
and it was in a Doctor Who setting. I was in like a Doctor Who story, and I had three really vivid dreams, one after the other, but one included this reality bomb, and it must have been after I'd seen this, I guess, but it was so vivid and so real. It was bizarre. So yeah, I don't know. That stuck with me. Um, yeah, I mean, look, you get all the crew together in this. You get Sarah Jane Smith and all that lot. That's cool. I
Hmm.
like that. That was
I
nice.
do. It's cool how it connects all of the spin-offs.
Mm.
It brings them into one. I really like that, which is why I say this is a character piece.
A nexus point. It
Yeah.
was tying it all together in a little node of Doctor Who history, which is nice. I like that.
Hmm. Okay, so number 14. Let's have a look. It is. Ah, yes. No, I know you're going to disagree with me for this one.
Ooh.
It's Resurrection of the Daleks.
Ooh.
I know you have a fondness for this one. Look, so do I, because this was actually the first classic Doctor Who story I ever got on DVD. So, I owe this one a great deal. But as the years have gone on, I've kind of realized there isn't really much of a story here. I mean, this whole story could have basically been skipped had Davros not been so shoddy and just gotten on the bloody ship when the Daleks told him to. But no, he had to say, "Oh no, I want to be here. Stop being so cranky and get on the ship." Literally, it's like, this whole scenario. But of course, Davros wanted to create a virus and wipe out these Daleks because he wanted revenge. I guess he wanted to make new Daleks, which of course gets touched upon in future stories. But I don't know. I feel like this story was all, oh, look at the kills and look at the violence, and then but under that, it's so surface level. There isn't really much going on here aside from that. Not to mention the abysmal acting. Lest we remember that scene where the Daleks burst into the control room and shoot people, and just going, "Oh no, 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 no! Oh no, 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 no! Seriously, how many times are you going to say no? It's happening." Like, you know, just come to peace with it. Like, Christ. So yeah, not so great acting.
But
Terry
you
the
had Rula
Lawyer.
Lenska. What do you want?
I know whether that is, but
She used to live in Wimbledon, where I used to live. I used to see her about and shopping in the supermarket. Lovely, lovely lady.
I'm
Great
sure she
actor.
was. Well,
Great,
which
great
character did she play?
She was the one with the headband in white, the older woman.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Didn't she get shot when she was trying to blow the ship up?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I know which one you mean.
And again, a diverse cast.
Very diverse. I mean, Christ, like if that had been 4K, I'd have thought this was a new Who story I was watching. Like, Christ, I mean, I swear 80% of that crew are either black or Asian.
Mm.
Which I'm not be it against in any way. I never, like I say, as a kid, I never even thought about it. I was
Well,
just
no,
like
it's only in the modern day where everyone's just
just
hyper
babbling on
focused on all
about it
this. Yeah,
constantly.
and it's complete nonsense. Like it's always been Doctor Who, the BBC has always been a liberal show. It's always had these things in there. So I just don't know where they get this idea from that it's problematic or this nonsense. PD Rich says you thought Revelation was worse. Hmm.
Oh, I mean, I can kind of get behind that.
And PD Rich says, wasn't the black guy also gay? Was he? I don't know, I can't
Well,
remember.
this is the thing, guys. I don't read into this. I
Yeah,
don't care.
no one
I
cares.
don't
No one
bloody care. I saw him in the special features. He just seemed like a nice guy.
Mm.
He never went on about his race once. He's like, oh, it was such a big deal for me being cast back then. No, he just said, like, yeah, it was really cool. I still get fans sending me letters to this day. It's even
And
though
we
I
got
was only,
Leslie knock one out Grantham on in this as well. He gets murdered.
and of course we
A lot
start
of
the.
death in this.
Yeah, there is a lot of death. It has a higher kill count than the Terminator, so I suppose it is fun to watch in that regards. Don't know what
I
kind of
think
person that makes
Eric
me.
Sayward did a really good job at making this very threatening and very sinister. I thought
Yeah,
the creepy policeman
yeah.
that terrified me as a kid when I watched.
When Tegan's running and then the policeman just gets the suppressed pistol out, and you're like, oh god,
Yeah, and they're
and she
just
just.
walking,
And then there's just a guy, an innocent guy with a metal detector, like, gonna find me some junk in the water. No! The most Australian no I've ever heard. No! It's
and of
like,
course Lytton,
oh,
love
Lytton,
Lytton.
yeah, love him. Attack of the Cybermen, definitely gonna have to cover him when we do our
Mm,
Cybermen
such a
stream.
great character.
He is a very good actor as well. So
And they
yeah,
even made a comic series out of him, didn't they? Or something like that, I think.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a character I'd love to see, kind of like maybe reimagined or something. It's just he's got a lot there.
Mm.
But yeah, and of course we have the Daleks getting excited over each other before dying. It's just not.
And a pretty toots. Yeah,
I
cat.
mean, as a kid, it's yeah,
I like the setting. I mean, in the sort of Docklands area of East London, was it? Yeah, I guess around East London, or, the South Bank somewhere. Yeah, I just think it was of its time when that area was underdeveloped. It was just hauntingly sort of dilapidated,
mhm,
and you can imagine all sorts of things could go on there without anyone knowing. And it was just that was really quite added to the threat. The villain was almost that part of London itself. And
yeah.
what a great place for the Daleks to sort of do their business, without drawing much attention.
Love
I
their
like that.
design as well. I love how much darker they are. I
Oh yeah,
think that's
they
cool.
look really blingy.
And the Supreme Dalek, very underrated design. I love the
Mm.
white hemispheres. It just, when do you ever see a Dalek with white hemispheres?
Hmm.
You know, but yeah, I think that's about all I have to say for this one. So, what's your number 14 then, Lee?
Army of Ghosts Doomsday. So we kind of struck in the middle there, aren't we?
Yeah, we're
Kind
not
of
too far away from each other, really.
just slightly phased.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I like the SAS battle. I wasn't that keen on the Rose Tennant thing and the the I love you bit thing at the end.
Yeah,
But for a bit of entertainment, it was fine. It was fine. I mean, I probably being generous with putting that there. Probably would have put it
yeah.
slightly lower actually, but yeah, it's all right.
Okay, so for number 13, we have um, the Daleks' Master Plan for me. So, like I say, the 3 episodes that we have gotten on the Lost in Time box set paint a really good story to me, and I really wish we could get it animated properly, you know. So because it just seems to be like when people complain that the chase was too camp, Nation basically does the exact thing again, but just makes it more serious.
Mm.
And, aside from an episode that's apparently awful, a random Christmas special that doesn't feature the Daleks at all, and is just kind of in between the season, where the Doctor even says Merry Christmas to the screen.
Come out of a Dalek.
No, I mean the Daleks should be there cutting the Christmas cake, like it's so bloody out of it. But yeah, it looks like it has a very dark sort of climax where the core of the Time Destructor goes haywire and ages one of the companions to death.
That's
You
probably
can
pretty.
see that recreated in telesnaps and Daleks with flamethrowers, which this was the first classic Who episode, Day of Armageddon, that I ever saw. My
Mm.
7-year-old self was mind blown just
Mm.
seeing these Daleks with flamethrowers, and
It's
just
like tiki torches by the neo Yazis.
I know, but it was wonderful, and I love the feel of it. Even as a kid, all the silly aliens with the silly makeup, it just looks so brilliant, and I was destined to fall in love with Classic Who from the moment I saw this.
Mhm.
So I have quite a fondness for this story, and the episodes that we have just make me wish we had more. But unfortunately, that's all I can say for it because we don't have more.
Well, I think, given the age of AI, which is just burgeoning around the corner, I think eventually you'll be able to fill in the gaps. You'll just put in the audio and the tele snaps and everything about the dark scene. Poof, it'll just churn it out. So you'll get your
Yeah, trouble is
story.
AI will probably be used for more malicious methods
Well, I think
than that.
the ability to make. I mean, you could probably make the missing episodes with AI, and then if you wanted to make them in color, if you wanted to make them 4K or whatever, or if you wanted to add extra effects, you could do that. You just type it in or whatever. So that's around the corner. So you'll get that story eventually, one way or the other.
Mm.
I reckon. That's my prediction.
And for you, Lee?
For me, the Dalek invasion of Earth. I actually had this a lot higher up before we started, and I did rethink this somewhat. And yeah, I think it was just too long. There were a few sort of episodes that just seemed to drag on, and you sort of lose consciousness. Other than that, I think it's a great story. Definitely H.G. Wells inspired War of the Worlds. Yeah, I think there's not much we've covered pretty much everything about it. I think it's got a lot of iconic. I've said it 3 times now in this one stream, but it has a lot of iconic scenes in there,
Yeah.
which burn into your mind. It's a definitive type of Dalek story. But as I say, I think when you think about the movies, they are better presentations,
Mm.
really. Anyway.
Yeah, well, we've covered this one quite extensively. So for number 12 now, I have to keep looking at the notes.
And don't
I
forget your
have.
Dalek movies.
Oh yeah, no, these are already included in my list.
Hmm.
So for number 12, we have Daleks in Manhattan: Evolution of the Daleks. Now, you covered this quite extensively, but I'm just going to kind of give my version of it. So I do agree with you with some things, but I think there is a lot of interesting ideas in this story. And
Oh yeah, I said that. Yeah.
I think this is a huge improvement from Army of Ghost Doomsday because it feels as though the Cult of Skaro are really front and center here. They are the last four Daleks and they are very desperate. You know, their technology looks very toned down and very, like they've salvaged what they can and they're going to desperate measures to ensure their race survives. And I think the Dalek Sec hybrid is an interesting idea. Could have been handled a bit better,
But
but
that's impure. It's impure.
I know, but that's the whole point. See, this story highlights how flawed the Daleks are. You
I mean,
know,
if they're desperate, I can imagine that they would do something like that. But I don't know.
but I think it's great. I actually love the pig slaves. I think the prosthetics and the animatronics on the faces is incredible. I
Well, having said what I just said, one of the stories I put higher up is Revelation of the Daleks, and they're converting non-Khalids into
Mm.
Daleks. So, there you go. I'm a hypocrite.
Well, I find the Daleks a bit hypocritical, really, that they're saying that Dalek Sec is impure, but they're more than happy to use human bodies, just filling them up with Dalek blood. They're still
Mm.
not technically Daleks, so it's a
There is a
bit.
little inconsistency, but that's been going on for decades. So fair
Yeah,
enough.
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's cool, and come on, Dalek Tommy guns. I mean, it. I love the setting. I know some of the character like Tallulah can be a bit irritating, but her
Mm.
accent is just hilarious, and I do really love her. I love Andrew Garfield. I love Laszlo. I love that bit where the Doctor climbs on the flagpole and gets struck by lightning to put his DNA. It's really clever the way he does it. At first, I was like, "What's he doing?" And like just zapping himself like that. I love it. This story just gives me goosebumps. I enjoy watching it. I think it just it leads the Daleks on to their finale perfectly.
Come on, doctors have regenerated for less than that.
I know, but it's just I really like this one. I think this one is very underappreciated. You know, a lot of people mark it as Russell's weakest Dalek story when I disagree. I think it really does have a lot of potential. I think if
Mm.
you ignore a few cheap areas here and there, you've got a great story here.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think there's some good ideas in there. It was just for me executing it kind of on the wrong side of cringe for me. Um, that's one of my sort of main problems with the RTD era. Is there were a lot of elements I just thought, God, it's just a bit too cringe.
Hmm.
If it's not the dialogue, then it's something in the production. If it's not in the effects, it's in the costumes or the designers. It's something. I can never quite place what it is, but there's always something that just kind of doesn't sit with me. And this was one of those. And the pig hybrid thing, I just couldn't get on with that. And
Hmm.
Laszlo just, I sympathise with the character or empathise with the character, but I just, it was just too weird. I mean, not that weird is bad, I quite like a lot of weird stuff in Doctor Who, but it was just, I just couldn't get on with I think maybe the design of it was just made my stomach churn.
Hmm.
I don't know. Interesting concepts again, but for me, just the RTD angle on it was just never quite worked for me in many ways. But
All right.
yeah.
Well, so just missing the top 10 now for me, we have Revelation of the Daleks. Now, I know that might surprise some people because I do actually think this is a really great story. I think this goes to show how great the Daleks can be when it comes to horror. I think they have a lot of potential for body horror
Oh yeah.
and just they have a real darkness to them that I think this story explores. My one trouble is I feel like not enough attention is actually focused on the Daleks. Like, yes, Davros is growing Daleks from humans, but aside from that scene in the catacombs with the glass Dalek and a couple of brains in jars, it's only really dialogue from Davros that really tells you that. Far too much just seems to be the Sixth Doctor and Perry just wandering about, which I've noticed is a thing with a lot of Sixth Doctor stories, and it is very much focused on Davros, which I don't mind. The Daleks just seem to be in the background. I'm not fond of their Necros design. I think the Imperial Daleks were a massive improvement. They just don't sit well with me. But that scene with the glass Dalek was absolutely phenomenal. One of the best scenes in the whole show. Truly, truly grim. The music, the way it builds tension, it just that to me just kind of like, why can't we have more like this?
Mm.
And I just feel like there were a couple of missed opportunities with this story. Oh, look, they killed Davros. Oh, it's just a clone. Bit of a cop out there. And but I will say Terry Malloy gives his best performance as
Oh,
Davros.
definitely.
And when I met him in person, actually, he did say this was his favorite of the ones he did.
Mm.
I hate the Dalek voices. Just ridiculous.
Right,
But I love
Roy Skelton. That was kind of one of the. I mean, I love Roy Skelton, but for me, he was always Zippy, and I can't ever get Zippy out of my head. So every time I hear Daleks, I'm just thinking of Zippy from Rainbow.
I know.
It sounds like he's got a Dalek with a cold, a little bit like that. But yeah.
Malfunction. Like, oh my god. You will be exterminated. It's like, oh my destroy, destroy. It's so bad. Like, it's contender with Day of the Daleks original version for the worst ever voice. But
And we get Alexei Sale as the DJ, which was kind
yeah,
of
I really
comic
like
relief.
him actually. It's
It was
just a
quite
shame he died in a really stupid
yeah.
way.
And also like William Gaunt as Orsini with his
Orsini,
companion.
yeah. Like I say,
I loved that character. I'd love to have seen him come back or seen him again, even if it was before this was set, that's something like that.
like I say,
Doctor.
really dark moments and moments that I really like. I think this is the strongest story of season 22, but unfortunately, just Daleks just want more, and they're kind of just in the background, which is why I can't really put this higher. So I want to get onto the top 10 quickly. I'll speed things up a bit. So Lee, what is your number 11?
My number 11 is Day of the Daleks.
Oh,
Yeah. We watched this recently. I love Pertwee in this. I think this is probably I would say this was his best Dalek story. What do you think?
oh, by several hundred country miles. It's absolutely, it's so underrated. I'm gonna get onto this when I come to it, but yeah, just it's so underrated. The fandom just seems to completely ignore it.
That's weird. I find that weird. I mean, when you look at his other Dalek stories, I mean, this is I mean, I don't think he had a very good run with Daleks, quite
No,
honestly.
I mean he had no Cybermen at all.
No
And
Cybermen at all.
but I think this was a great way for them to come back after being on like a 3-year hiatus, or 4 years, I think it was.
And the Ogrons were quite
Great.
chilling as well, and
Yeah.
it was a quite a violent story.
Well, the Doctor actually uses a sodding gun.
Yeah.
So all this anti-gun thing that he's got now is like, bloody hell, Ogron, no
Gone.
problem.
Yeah, I like the setting. I like the time travel element to it. I like the Dalek sort of invasion of the house and the Ogrons, and I thought the villain was quite a compelling character as well. He's doing bad stuff and he knows he's doing bad stuff, but he's trying to come to terms with the fact he's doing bad things. So you get a bit of pathos in there as well with his character. Can't remember, I'm not very good with names.
Well, they just call him the controller.
The controller with his shiny face.
Yeah, his silver makeup. It's like, I
Um,
always thought, like,
Joe's
is
great in
that
this as
makeup
well.
or is it the lighting?
No, it was definitely makeup, but I thought Joe was great in this as well. Yeah, that I mean, it's as good a Dalek story as you're going to get under Pertwee.
Yeah,
Really.
but Pertwee's era was fantastic.
Yeah,
It's just a shame that I think
Undeserved.
it may have been because creatively they just wanted to move forward, and I feel
Mm.
like bringing the Daleks back may have been due to fan demand.
Yeah, I get that feeling because I think they really, because if you look, I mean, it was such a massive leap from Troughton's era to Pertwee's era, and they were clearly trying to do something completely new with it.
Hmm.
I do get that feeling like the Daleks are a bit of an embarrassment to the BBC at this point. They just, because I think after the Troughton era, the Dalek craze had died down because it was during the Hartnell era, the
Yeah,
Dalek mania was a thing. It wasn't so much a thing under Troughton. Um, and certainly, I think by the 70s, they were like, okay, we've got everything in color. It's a new decade. Uh, we're moving into the
it
future.
was
And
hard to keep them up to date.
yeah, they just probably thought this is just a throwback too much. I think that's how
And
they
as I
saw
say,
it.
I'm going to save it for when I come to this story. But I've got a lot of good things to say about their design.
Yeah.
So, right, God, I know we've been
Well,
going
onto my great section now, so it's like the orange section. So.
Yeah. Well, like I say, we're in the top 10 now, so I know we've been
Mm.
going for a while. So big thanks to PD there in the chat for
Sticking
sticking with
out,
us.
soldiering.
God. It's like I'd highly recommend for when you guys are watching this back, play a video game, read a book while you're listening, just for God's
Or we
sake,
can
don't.
we can do ASMR.
Oh yes. Or you could watch us in
Dalek
half an hour
ASMR.
episodes if you like. Don't have to do it all in one go. Right, number 10. Oh, I know this is going to get me banned from the Doctor Who fandom entirely, but we have Genesis of the Daleks.
Da, da, da.
Dun, dun,
Ah!
dun, dun.
Just
You're
to make sure that everyone knows,
welcome.
this is not an official screenshot from the show, because obviously you can see his makeup is not applied for
Yeah,
on his man.
it's a picture that I have a lot of fondness for because if it weren't for this picture, I may not have ever tried Classic Who.
Yeah, tell that story.
Well, when I was a kid, my dad got me a little Doctor Who book from the local market, and he basically said, "This is the old Doctor Who," and I was like, "Old Doctor Who? What are you talking about?" It's like, and he just showed me it, and I love Daleks, so seeing these grey things with pupils in their eyes, shiny, and just looking so different, like nothing I'd ever seen before, and a half human, half Dalek. Just mind blown. And this scrapbook, even though I could never read because I was either really lazy or my autism just stopped me, um, I just I just looked at them pictures. I spent ages just looking at those pictures that they had, and this one in particular was my favorite, and it just made me just want to discover this show so badly. And I really have a lot to thank for it in many ways, so I have quite a fondness for this one.
Good.
But anyway, I put this here before because I know you're all getting your lynches ready and your torches. So just let me explain. Genesis of the Daleks is a classic and a fantastic story, but it's a Davros story. The Daleks are barely in it. I understand that it's their creation, it's their genesis, and I respect it, but as its own entity, as a Dalek story, I prefer Day of the Daleks because the Daleks are featured more prominently. They are the center. In this story, this is very much leading up to the Daleks. Davros is the centerpiece, and Davros is the amazing, he's the character that you're following and the one that you're interested in. The Daleks are kind of just there until the end, obviously. But it's kind of why I think it was a bit of a mistake to make every subsequent Dalek story a Davros story as well, because I just think it took the spotlight off them a bit. But I do really like this story. I just can't put it any higher than this because the Daleks just aren't in it that much, and I don't feel like they get as much of a presence until the end. And I also am not very fond of that god awful speech that "we are in tomb, but we live on." It's cringe to its full potential. Like the supreme power of the universe. This is a Nazi allegory for those of you who haven't quite figured it out.
Petey
Like,
Rich says sacrilege, but it's
oh,
the Davros story.
the Davros story, right? It's my favorite Davros story. I love it, okay, but I'm sorry, I'm an individual. I do not subscribe
Well,
to the
is it your
fandom group
favorite
thing.
Davros story? Because you've clearly got another Davros story.
No, it's my
Thing.
favorite Davros story, but we're talking about Dalek stories.
I know, but I mean, a
It
story
is my
with
favorite
Davros in it.
Davros story, and
Okay.
it will always be. I don't think it'll ever be passed.
No, definitely not.
So that is my number 10. And I
Mm.
know everyone is just going to scream and shout God the comments I'm going to get in a few days' time. But Lee, what is your number 10?
Resurrection of the Daleks.
Okay.
So we come back to Peter Davison there. Just I just remember watching this on TV as a kid, just being absolutely blown away by it because it was so eerie and sinister and dark and Daleks and the Doctor being this sort of fresh-faced newbie. Really, well, it wasn't new at this point. I mean, I was still suffering from uh, PTSD, which is post Tom. No, PTRD. I call it post Tom regeneration disorder.
Well, I was the same for Matt Smith.
Yeah,
Even though Matt Smith was in his third season, I still thought he was new.
right. That's how I saw Peter Davison. But I grew to love Peter Davison as a kid.
Mm.
And I've grown more of an appreciation for him after a while because when I started rewatching it all again when it came back on BritBox and I'm starting getting the DVDs because I never got the original videos and things when I was younger. And we had a Doctor Who club at my school, which we saw lots of these stories on video, which was great. That's where I first saw Genesis of the Daleks was my school Doctor Who club, and I was absolutely blown away. So yeah, I mean, Resurrection of the Daleks, I think it's as high as it is. I get what you say, but for me, when it came out, there was nothing like it. I hadn't seen the Daleks since Destiny of the Daleks. I think at that point.
Mm.
So it was just like, wow, to see the Daleks again was so great, and I just thought, it was quite a wrenching story, and to see Tegan leave at that point, I didn't have the same views of her character or the actress as I do today, but at the time, it was a character that I liked. But then again, I was when was this? 83, 80, yeah, 83, I think, wasn't it?
So you were 7 or 8?
Yeah, so I was quite young. But I thought it was a very grown up story. I felt very sort of grown up watching it.
All the death.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, so number 9 for me is Evil of the Daleks. So yeah, I agree with you 100% about the whole house pieces, but I actually think that the story has a narrative and it flows very well. Although I do think it doesn't make some sense in some areas, like one minute they want the human factor, then the Emperor's like, oh, actually, I've changed my mind. For no reason at all, I've suddenly realized that I just want more of the Dalek factor.
I just thought the test that the Daleks set Jamie were just a little too. I can explain it. Like, it wasn't very clear that's what they were doing. I know that's what they were doing, but it just seemed. Look, it wasn't like in was it Planet? Yeah, Planet of the Daleks, where it was quite clear these are the tasks. It was quite ambiguous and indistinct the way it was done, and I didn't like the way that they had the mute guy sort of done in that way.
Yeah,
That
that was a
that
bit
was dumb,
silly.
you know. I thought it heated up towards the end. I just thought it just dragged on a bit too much in the middle. And as I said, the characters was really hard to like, really hard to like. Even
But the end,
Victoria was hard to like.
oh no, I've always loved
I
Victoria.
know, but in that introductory story, I was like,
I think though that the
damsel in
ending
distress.
is just fantastic. Like when they get to Skaro,
Yeah,
that is peak Daleks. That is for
yeah,
me.
that was much more. I mean, it was sinister the way they just materialized into the mansion. I like that, but I think it was really when we were on Skaro that it really felt more menacing.
And the Emperor is fantastic.
Oh
Just
yeah,
the way
definitely.
it's realized, and
I love that
I
design.
I
It's my
think it's
favorite Emperor design.
absolutely, and I think I really love it. I think the scenes on Skaro are brilliant, and I think yeah, it can be a bit sloppy when you're going through the house parts, but I think the story all comes together quite well at the
Those
end.
bloody saloon doors. Oh God.
Oh no, I know. It's
Just
just like you
what? Prop the doors open.
a Dalek couldn't exactly sneak in, could it?
Yeah,
Fucking
right.
noise it would make. It just
Yeah,
wants
and the house kind of just blowing up. It was like, I don't know. It was just a bit slapdash. I thought, it could have done with a bit tighter. Maybe that's just the animation. Maybe
probably.
that
I mean,
has a
look,
lot to do
the
with it.
animation is always going to dull down your experience just because of how
Mm.
awful it is.
It doesn't lend itself well because the pacing is a lot slower, and with animation, you need it to be more fast paced to
Yeah.
work. But with animation and just the audio that they had, it's a lot of padding, and they're not really doing much with that padding. So I think that definitely had an effect. Really,
Mm. I wouldn't mind if they condensed them down a little bit to make the
well, yeah,
animation flow better.
I wouldn't mind that at all, especially like with some of that awkward silence
Yeah,
where
but
they might
they
be
just
moving
they would
just
just kind of
touching.
like move around and look at each other, not to mention the way they wave their arms about.
Oh, yeah, that the snowman,
Oh,
the snowman, the
guys, the
Yetis.
animation for the Abominable Snowmen is so bad. I actually sent it back.
Yeah,
It
that
was so bad. I
was so
didn't even
bad.
finish it. I gave up.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing I've ever watched. But anyway, so that's Evil of the Daleks for me. Lee, what would be your number 9?
Right, where we're up to. Bad Wolf Parting of the Waves.
Okay.
So being a classic Who fan through and through and through and through,
Fanatic.
with putting RTD in his place and Moffat in his place and Chibnall's not even. There's not
No
even a
place to
place.
put him in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at these objectively as possible, and putting aside my predominant wish for Classic Who to be the better stories. I have to be honest and say that not always the case. But with this, I thought I liked the Bad Wolf premise. I thought that was really clever.
Mm.
I think the Daleks are quite ominous in this. I think they are a real existential threat, and they really put the Doctor in his place and put him in such an unenviable, impossible position where he has to destroy and to go against his instincts and he's like, no, I choose to be a coward. And that's such a doctory thing to do.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciated that because I
And
did
I just
struggle
have to
with the
say this
Doctor.
because a certain YouTuber I won't name has used that as like, oh, they're trying to make the Doctor a beta male and a sissy. And it's like the Doctor was faced with an impossible decision. Could you have done it?
Pertwee
Could
would have
you have
done
done it?
this. Pertwee would have done the same thing.
He
I
would have,
don't
yeah.
think he would necessarily have said coward, but
No,
he would have done it in his own way.
yeah.
Any other Doctor, I think, would have done exactly the same thing. So I think it was. I think it was
I
kind
can
of
picture
clever the way that
McCoy.
he used.
I can picture McCoy sort of
Oh,
going
definitely.
and then just backing away at
Yeah,
the last minute, like
yeah. He would go.
screaming, like
Yeah,
yeah,
he would
with
throw
his
it on the
umbrella, and
ground.
then just like never,
Yeah,
or something. It's like so. Yeah, I don't think Hartnell would. I think Hartnell would just give the Daleks the stare and just be like, you know, you'll never make me into that.
yeah.
Never. I will never be like you.
You would make a good
Yeah,
Dalek.
but that's what he means because he's like the Emperor says, "I want to see you become like me. Do it."
Mm,
It's like a very Joker moment, isn't it? It's like the Joker wants the Batman to kill him so that he becomes no better than him.
mm.
But I know the alternative is the Daleks winning, but the Doctor's like, it goes against everything that I am. So do you know what? Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for me to lose.
The
And it's
main problem I had with this was the ending, or the sort of Deus Ex Machina
oh,
of,
the girl boss.
yeah, Rose, I divide you. It's just like that was the most naff part. I hated that. I don't know if it was just because her delivery, but she had this kind of thing going on. I thought, very much like the villain at the end of Superman 3, like the robot woman, whatever, which
Well, I haven't
becomes.
seen Superman 3 yet.
Oh, we have to watch it. I don't know. I just thought it was such a cop out. Like, I'm just gonna, all right, you're all screwed now. I'm just gonna, disintegrated like you never existed, kind of thing. I thought that was a bit too overpowering. I get it, and I get that's a way of him sacrificing himself to save her and all the rest of it. But yeah, like all the payoff was there really from all the setup. You got the bad wolf thing, the mystery that was running throughout the series coming through. That was a nice cliffhanger moment. Very clever. I can't fault it on that. And I thought Eccleston really did shine in this.
Absolutely.
As I say, I struggled with his Doctor. I did. He
I
was
know.
so different from what I'd known all my life. But for that was a real Doctor moment. I like that. I did appreciate that.
Brilliant. So where are we at? Okay, so number 8, I believe. Is it? Yep. Number 8 for me is Day of the Daleks. So, like I say, most of the time you get to talk about them first. So, yeah, I absolutely love the design for these. I think it was a great way for them to return. I know there was only 3 Daleks in the whole story, but obviously if you watch the special edition, they
Special
add more.
edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great, by the way. You should get the special edition DVD. The Ogrons really like them. They're very much the precursors to the pig slaves. Pertwee, I think, is great in this, and I just think it's really fun. It's really fun, but it doesn't diminish the Daleks in any way. I love the battle at the house at the end. I think the story builds perfectly. This was when I got this on DVD a few years back. This just kind of got me because I remember I wasn't feeling Doctor Who at that time. Obviously, with the advent of Series 11, and that had just kind of really taken the wind out of my sails with the show. And then I got this on DVD and I watched it and I was like, yeah, like this is where it's at. This is it just reminded me how much I really love it. And it's such a fantastic story. I can't believe I hadn't seen it sooner. So yeah, I can't put this any lower than this just because I do love it. And I think, with Nick Briggs's updated voices, I think it just makes it so good. I cannot understand why this is so underrated personally. So,
Absolutely.
what is your number 8, Lee?
I think I'm gonna have to start going to the Dalek movie territory at this point.
Okay.
And I'm struggling because they're so close together in my view. I can't tell which one I liked more.
Well, I know which one I like more, but
Which one did you like more?
Dalek Invasion Earth.
Yeah.
But I like the first one so much as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it just pips it, doesn't it? I think because you've got more of an ensemble cast. You've obviously got the wonderful Bernard Cribbins in the Invasion one, and you got some great stunts in there as well. The poor stunt guy screwed his ankle, didn't he, when he jumped through
Yeah.
that awning?
So which one am I going with?
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with the Doctor and the Daleks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at that set.
I know.
if anyone knows me and knows I have an absolute love for copper, the metal, and all this is just copper everywhere. I'm just like, and it's gorgeous Technicolor. Look at those wonderful Daleks.
Yeah,
They're beautiful.
I'm so happy to
It's
own the toy.
Yeah,
Like,
you're lucky. It's just so much fun. Yes, it's not the Doctor. It's Doctor Who. Um, and I think the ensemble cast playing the roles that they do make a great little team. Peter Cushing is just delightful. Um, I think it's weird though because I do prefer the Barbara and Ian duo there really as the companions. So that's why it for me the Daleks is superior in that regard. If you get what I mean, like the William Hartnell, Ian and Barbara and Susan for me can't be topped. But
oh yeah,
this is a beautifully designed rendering, if you like, of that story
yeah.
done on the big screen. It looks gorgeous. It tells the story. The Thals look absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
They look like drag queens have lost
I
their
know.
wigs. That is not whoever whoever designed that. They need a word.
I just try not to think about it when I'm watching it.
That does let it down, but I mean, it has that kind of time machine element to it. The
Yeah,
film The Time Machine, the H.G. Wells story. It's got that sort of Morlocks and Eloy feel about it, which I like. I think the set design, the production on this is just superb. It's beautifully done. But yeah, I mean, it's a retelling of the same story. Obviously, with those differences. The Doctor isn't the Doctor; it's Doctor Who, and he's an Earth man. The TARDIS on the exterior looks fantastic. The interior, not so much. um, yeah, I mean, what can I say about it? I think when we get to the story of the Daleks, we'll talk
you'll
about
be able to
the
do a
actual.
good comparison.
Yeah. So tell me, between this and the Daleks, I mean, what are the main differences?
Well, I'd say the Daleks is more character driven, with the Doctor and his companions and granddaughter being the central focus of the story. Whereas here, I would say the Daleks are very much the pinnacle of it. They are the
That's very
center.
true.
And
Yeah.
I feel as though the characters have been not dulled down necessarily, but they have been recontextualized to fit the standard Hollywood movie. You've got the geeky professor, his happy-go-lucky granddaughter. You've got the dare I say it, irritating woman, and then you've got the really kind of silly, dumb guy who gets into trouble all the time. The characters have been reworked to fit the Daleks, whereas in the original, the Daleks kind of work around the characters because it's their journey you're following. In this film, it feels like its very own isolated story.
Yeah, I think as well for me the reason why I think the Daleks serial from Doctor Who compared to the film version
Well,
is
when you get to that, I'd
yeah,
say do
I'll
that.
just say it's better for me because
Yeah.
I think the Daleks are just the way they're introduced is much more horror, creepy,
Yeah.
kind of sinister
Well,
thing
there's a
about it.
lack of scary music. It's been replaced with an almost orchestral
Yeah.
thing, hasn't it? It's not. It's less horror and more in more. I would say almost beauty. I mean, even the Daleks themselves, they're made to look very glamorous. It's like the Daleks have gone Hollywood, baby. Like whereas in the original they're grungy. They're kind of they're very simple here, but creepy and
And
and garish.
they got a frying pan as well,
Yeah, they do. They do.
or like a little basket to to do your deep frying in.
I mean, I love them both equally, to be honest, but I've had to think about where I'm going to put them in this list.
Mm.
So, coming in at number 9, we just speed things up a little bit now because, God, I've just noticed we've been going on for 2 hours and 20
That's
minutes.
all right.
We've had a lot of stories to cover.
Yeah.
So coming into number 9 for me is Remembrance of the Daleks.
Mm.
I think this is a really nice photo. Once again, it's not in the story, it's just promotion, but just seeing those Imperial Daleks, I absolutely love that design. There is something about Remembrance, it just ticks every box for me.
Mm.
This should have been the anniversary story, not
Hell
Silk
yes.
Nemesis. I mean,
Absolutely.
come on. It takes place in Totter's Lane. It literally has an Easter egg where the broadcasting of the show is about to be announced on the
Yeah.
television.
Yeah.
It has the Daleks, the most popular enemy, and there's even a little subplot that goes back to Hartnell. This was written to be the anniversary story. Why wasn't this the anniversary story?
Because it was the 25th anniversary, which is
Oh,
silver
beg your pardon.
anniversary.
Yeah, 25th.
So
25th,
yes,
I think.
it's the silver. That's you get paper lace
I
and
know
yeah.
they wanted
So
it to be
yeah,
Cybermen because
Cybermen.
silver,
Yeah,
but I sorry, it should have been this story.
yeah.
I think it's so worthy of it, and I just love it from Sylvester's acting to that scene he has with the what's his name from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the butler.
Oh yeah,
It's him in the
yeah,
cafe.
yeah,
From
yeah,
that
yeah,
scene
yeah.
with
He's
him,
great.
I memorized every line, and it's something so simple that just
Mm.
works. To the renegade Daleks, love their design. To the Imperial Daleks, oh my god, explosions, blowing each other up. To the Daleks' credit, at least they're blowing each other up and not humans doing it in really convoluted and silly ways.
Yeah,
You
I mean
know,
they were quite invincible. Like they're
pretty
chucking
much.
everything at them.
And oh my
Like
god, when the
the one
special
Dalek. I mean, this was the precursor to Dalek, right? You had one Dalek just taking all these assaults at it, and it's just not even a scratch.
I know. And also that very awesome scene which made my younger self go, "Hang on a minute." When the Dalek went up the stairs, I'm like, "Knew who's always bragging that it was the first?"
Nah.
Nah. And it's such an awesome
And
scene,
I
isn't it? Just
remember seeing
the
that
music
when
and
it was on
everything.
TV. Yeah, I remember seeing that Dolly going upstairs, and that was the first time we'd ever seen that, and that broke that. If the internet had been a thing at the time, that would have broken the internet.
I know.
It was such a joy. And there's some great scenes. You've got Ace climbing over bloody tables and the baseball bat and the ship, the Dalek ship landing in the school, looking amazing for a
Mm,
practical effect. That was huge.
it was. It seems so
And
seamless, you
the
know?
people complain, oh, it's too small to contain all those. It's like, look, transcendental technology. They had it. Okay, so get over it.
Yeah. I love the transmat, how it creates that sort of X-ray, you can
Yeah,
see the
yeah,
creature
that
inside,
was
just
really
little
cool.
things like that. A lot of love went into this story. You
Mm.
can see that. The special weapons Dalek, fantastic. Just
And you start to
please
see the Doctor's Machiavellian side coming through in this as well.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Seventh Doctor
But
being
you
the
see
master tricker.
you see that special weapons Dalek, and it's just like, "Okay,
Oh,
we've lost." Like,
yeah, that thing rolls out, boof.
yeah, you've lost. Like, if you even see that thing, just don't even bother. Just like go on then, like because one shot puff all over,
Yeah.
and Davros being revealed as the Emperor at the end. I never saw that coming as a kid when I probably should have, but it's cool. I really like it. And just yeah, so many things work for me with this story, and I know a
Mm.
certain thing that works for you, but I'll let you talk about the
Yeah,
dirty,
well,
dirty
I'll come
things.
to that when I get to it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so what number are we on? 4, 5, 6, 7. What is your number 7?
It's Dalek,
Okay.
which is my top modern New Who story.
Oh,
So that's done really rather well,
yeah.
considering how much of a classic Who fan
I know. I didn't think any'd make it this far.
I am. I think it was a really great way to reintroduce the Daleks, or in your case, well, not yeah. I think in your case,
Yeah,
was this the
this was
first
my
time?
introduction to them.
So yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, this would have been the first time they'd seen a Dalek. And I think this was the thing that most people who'd seen the classic Who series were watching New Who, thinking, "God, how are they going to bring the Daleks in? It's going to be embarrassing." Oh God. And it wasn't. You know, it sent shivers up your spine. It was like you just see that eye stalk light up, and the bulbs and I don't know
Yeah.
what your ears or what you call them light up, but it's and that voice, and then you know that's and seeing it looking vulnerable, and that was such a mistake. And you really get to see, you know, when Rose activates it with touching it and showing it compassion, it just energized this bloody thing and it broke the chains, and then from then on it was just pure carnage.
Genetic material extrapolating, initiating puberty. Like, that's it, honey. I'm all switched on. Like,
uh,
now it's just going to stalk her for the rest of the
Uh,
episode.
but it was quite clever the way it sort of absorbed a bit of her
Mm,
compassion,
yeah.
and that was I mean, it's a complete silliness, really, when you think about it. It's like, well through osmosis, it's picking up her estrogen or something. I don't know. I am a trans Dalek.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I just thought it was great to see one single solitary Dalek just completely in charge of everything, and
Yeah.
everyone absolutely
It's the
running out of their mind.
1979 alien effect. It's like
Yeah.
the power of one of them.
Mm. And the reaction from Eccleston was
Spot on.
absolutely charged, and it was, you know, anyone watching this and not knowing who the Daleks were, seeing his response, were like, "Uh-oh, this can't be good."
Yeah.
And we were sitting there watching it, going, what's going to happen with this? You know, like, is it going to be able to do the stairs like it did in 89? Was it 89, 88? And it was like, yeah, actually, 88. Yeah, it shocked even me. And I was like, okay, this is a good thing. And yeah, I mean, everything else around it almost seems superfluous, like that annoying git that uh, was in the story. The
Henry Van
younger,
Staten.
yeah. Um, but it was a really great introduction to the Daleks to a new audience, and a real relief to a lot of older fans, going, "Oh yeah, this
They
is
got this
badass."
right.
Yeah, they got this right.
It's like if you get the Daleks wrong, you're buggered.
Yeah, you know, I did have reservations with the Ninth Doctor, because I was like, "Who is this guy? Why is he wearing a bin man's costume? What's going on? And why has he got that thick northern accent?" You know, I mean, I was, it's just like, this isn't going well. But then this came on, I was like, okay, this is good. This is good. I'm on board. I'm on board. Um,
Well, if it weren't like I've got a lot to say about this story.
we'll get to
So
it when you,
yeah.
yeah.
So coming in now at number I had just counted, but I keep forgetting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So coming in at number 6 now is Doctor Who and the Daleks. So yeah, I think we've talked about this enough, so I'll just breeze through this. I think it's a really well done film. I think it's got very good production values for the time. I was convinced that mountain they were climbing was real. I
That was
swear
a
to
great
God,
scene.
it
Yeah.
was seamless. I know it kind of looks like an oil painting in the far background, but it's so well done, and I love the fire extinguisher guns. I've always loved that about these films. I
Mhm.
love the colors. I love the Daleks' voices, the way they move. Maybe just a bit too like, we should definitely check out what's going on. It's like, yeah, you don't have to keep on separating your words there, guys. But yeah, it was just really good. I love Peter Cushing's performance. It's a joy to watch. In fact, I want to watch these things again soon,
Mm.
yeah, really soon, because I have such a fondness for them.
Uh,
And
I was tempted to get the 4K pack.
yeah, the collector's edition. I've got my eye on one actually. that isn't that expensive at all. But does it come with a standard Blu-ray version as well?
Yeah, it does.
It's
Yeah.
brilliant because I don't have a 4K player, but I would like to
Yeah.
get it just for the nice stuff that comes with it, like the coin and the photos and everything.
Yeah.
It looks really, really nice. So I think I might be tempted. Sadly, I think I've missed out on the Invasion Earth one. I think that's sold out.
Well, you might be lucky
Yeah,
on
we never know,
eBay or
but
something.
I just wasn't sure about it, because I haven't really gotten to 4K yet. You know, I've only really just gotten into Blu-ray in the past couple of years, but yeah, really great. Like I say, I think we've said enough about this film. Thal's designer a bit silly, but I just think it's an absolute joy to watch. And my friend really liked it, and he wasn't really much of a Doctor Who fan. He kind of just liked it as its own thing.
It's got that 60s charm to it, you know.
It has, yeah.
You gotta love it.
So, what is your number 6 then, Lee?
Revelation of the Daleks. No, actually, no.
Oh, okay.
Yes, no. It's going to be Invasion Earth, I think.
The movie,
The movie, yeah. Just because it told the story of Dalek Invasion of Earth in a more condensed, coherent way. And I love the characters, I love the designs, I love the Robo Men in this, I love the spaceship in this. It's just that story done better.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I mean, that's the only way you can really say. It's very visceral in places as well. It's very action packed. It's got some great comic bits in there as well with Bernard Cribbins. It just tells the story in a much neater and more entertaining way for me, I think. And I love the Daleks again, the design in these, especially the red Dalek there. I love that one.
Yeah. So, number 5 now. We have. Oh, this really hurts me to put it here, but yeah, we have Dalek Invasion Earth, 2150 AD. So, for me, I really love it. I honestly, it's my preferred of the 2 Dalek movies. I just think it has so much to offer. The action sequences in this are phenomenal. Like that scene where they attack the saucer, and then you get that funny scene of the Dalek that gets thrown down the ramp.
I regret nothing.
No, literally, it's just
the
like
meme, the GIF meme.
What sector do these prisoners come from? Sector 4, and it's just like, well, I've got news for you. No patrol has been allotted to Sector 4, so I have no idea what you think you're Did you really have to do this? We could have sat down and had a civil chat. It's so brilliant. And then all the Robomen just getting the shit kicked out of them. And that guy who keeps throwing the knife. And they add that humor in there as well, where the guy just jumps at them like yeehaw and just like drags them down with it. And it's brilliant. It's so brilliant. And the bit where all the Daleks are coming towards them in a group, and they're like, they're no good. The bombs are no good, and they just get bloody blasted with all this fire extinguisher. You can't see a thing. It's so good, and the music, even though it can be a bit there's a scene where it keeps cutting from one scene to another and the music changes with it. It's like dun 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 and it's like, okay, like again, it's very 60s, but
Yeah,
I just love it. And God, Bernard Cribbins being in it and
it's
all the
great.
different colors of Dalek, I love it so much. I really would want this to be a part of me wants this to be at number 1. Like, that's how much I love it, and I'm so happy that no matter how the show goes, these 2 films will always be their own thing.
Petey Rich says Curse of the Fatal Death is more canon. Well, I would certainly put the first female Doctor, Joanna Lumley, as the first female Doctor, for sure.
So, what is your number 5, then, Lee?
Revelation of the Daleks.
Okay.
I think, as you said earlier, this is definitely Collins. I think one of Collins' best stories. For me, I love how Davros is introduced into this. I love his Machiavellian trade plans and blackmail. I love the story of the sort of what's his name from Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh, Richard.
Yeah,
Well, that's the character.
Richard.
I forget
Yeah,
the name
yeah.
of the actor.
He's so great in this. He's such a
Yeah,
bastard to that
I know.
poor woman.
I hate
um,
you. And God, the music, like the new, like it's so chilling. It's
it's
like she's just stuck a bloody syringe in his heart. Like
it's got a lot
Christ.
of body horror, like even from the outset. You know, the sort of the failed mutant guy suffering like
Yeah,
that.
and the
Uh,
brains and the jars and everything.
and
It's
we don't get to see very much of the Doctor and Perry, particularly in the first episode. It's very light, and you see
mm,
much more of the building of the characters around the story.
I kind of like
Um,
that.
yeah, and it was different, you know, and I liked it. I really did. And you know, for an early Colin Baker story, this was what I was hoping that you know we would see more of this of. And again, Orsini, great character. Absolutely loved him. I would love to have seen it. It's such a shame he sacrificed himself, but it was such a boss thing to
Mm,
do. He was such a boss. Um, yeah, and I think you're right about being light on the Daleks. Would like to have seen more of them, but the sort of glimpse, it was kind of a bit of a retreading of Genesis in a way, you know, that
mhm.
kind of feeling about it.
It's very much Davros' story.
Yeah, it's a very Davros driven story. And I like the decoy element. I know you didn't like that, but I did.
Mm.
He must
I
have
think
really
we,
hurt
we
his
haven't
neck on
talked
that.
about how dark a certain bit is when Davros admits that he turned the failed experiments into food.
Yeah, that's
And
creepy.
it's just like, did you bother to tell anyone that they might be eating their own relatives? And he's like, nope.
Very
Hug
Soylent
life.
Green. Yeah. Again, you know, that added a nice extra depth and darkness to it. I mean, it's all very colorful and everything, but it's really dark.
Mm.
And you know, Colin Baker's performance is really good in this. He's got the swagger, and he's quite willing to let people sacrifice themselves.
I know. He is a bit of a habit of that, his
He
doctor.
does. He does. You don't mind if I don't join you, kind of attitude. Yeah.
Okay, so number 4 for me, it's the OG, it's the original, it's the Daleks.
Yeah.
I just love this. My great uncle actually recorded the whole thing for me when it was broadcast on BBC Two back in the 2000s, so I got to watch it in full.
Mm,
Didn't understand the beginning because I hadn't seen An Unearthly Child, so they were just kind of in the TARDIS. You know, it's
mm.
like, right before we go outside, we better check the atmosphere. It's just like that's how it starts, you know. So I'm just like, oh, what's happened? But then just from the plunger coming towards Barbara with that creepy,
Yes.
screechy music like that.
It was like a Hitchcock movie. It had
Yeah,
that real Hitchcock feel, like you know the Psycho with the knife, you know, and
it
the
did.
woman just screaming in the shower. It had that kind of feel about it. It was
And
definitely
the
Hitchcock.
fella the fella who did the voices did a great job. You know, you're
Mm,
well both ahead of us, and you know, just I think for there only being 4 Dalek props, I think they did a great job, especially in the ambush scene. And
mm,
yeah, you can see in this photo some of the sets do look a little bit obviously cardboard, but Christ, you know, for 60s television, that they put their
mm,
heart and soul into this. And I just think they did a phenomenal job. I really loved the sequences where they went through the swamp and they had a really scary monster there that just revealed itself very briefly. You know, it had these glowing eyes
mm,
and made a funny noise. They were just like, what the F? Like, you know, and then the Thals wear really funny spotty trousers and sandals. It's really weird. But,
mm.
you know, I do love those bits even when they're in the caves. I thought it's realized very well, you know?
And the
Like,
Thals are less embarrassing.
yeah, they're less in bed, they're more normal here. Not like something I fear we're gonna get in series 14. But, you know, I think it's really great, and I prefer it to the movie, only because of the characters. Like I say, I
That's what
think
I said. Yeah.
the original crew, I think, elevate this so
And
much.
that scene where you've got that picture there, but the doctor's protecting Susan,
Yeah.
and she's going to his chest,
They're terrified.
and
Like
he's
they're like,
yeah, and that was a really powerful scene,
yeah,
and that was really indicative of Hartnell's Doctor
era.
there. And, yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. Ian is a badass
he
in
is.
this.
He's the best
Barbara
companion.
is fantastic.
She's gorgeous. I love her.
You know, I love the plan with the, you know, when they work out how they run on static electricity, and then, you know,
Yeah.
they form this plan to capture this Dalek. I like that. You know, there's some real plotting in this. There's some real thought out scenes,
Mm.
and the
It's Terry
interrogations.
Nation's best work, I'd say,
Yeah,
for me.
I couldn't say that was, well. I mean, I could argue that because, you know,
Yeah,
obviously
I know what's going to be your number one.
but
It's okay. I get
I
it.
I think this was, in terms of originality and creativity, I think this was a blast. You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
how
and you
much
know,
Terry Nation designed them. But,
if it
you know.
hadn't have been for this story, I don't think the show would have lived another season. That's not necessarily to say that the rest of it was bad,
Well,
but I
this
don't.
created the Dalek mania of the
Yeah,
1960s. You know, my
and
dad had all the Dalek toys. You know that he gave them all away, bastard. But it was a children's hospital, so I can't be too angry, bastard. But it was a phenomenon, you know, and that can't be overstated. It was huge. I mean, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have had those Dalek movies with Peter Cushing. That's how big the Daleks were. You know, I don't think the Daleks were ever this big again until
mm,
Dalek, when RTD brought them back in 2005.
absolutely. But yeah, I lost my train of thought now.
Sorry.
Damn it. It's all right. Um, okay, so yeah, just brilliant story. And to think that this story almost didn't happen, you know,
Yeah, it's
because
crazy, isn't it?
they no one was convinced this was going to work, and it's like,
No
yeah,
bug-eyed monsters.
in your face, BBC.
Yeah.
So right, your number 4, Lee.
Is the Daleks.
Brilliant. So I don't have to move
No,
again. Yay.
so we've just talked about that.
Okay, so we basically just said everything that needs to be said, don't we?
Yeah, classic.
Okay. So now number 3, not too much longer to go, guys. Promise. Is Power of the Daleks.
Okay.
Just I love this story, and from the moment I saw the animation DVD way back in 2016, like my god, it doesn't even feel like it was that long ago. And then it's just like, even though the animation is awful, the story makes it watchable because it's so good. This was the perfect way to start off a brand new Doctor's era. It's a safe way of doing it, you know, to have an old enemy to keep people like affirm that this is the same show. But it does such a good job in doing that. I don't think the Daleks have ever been this creepy in the show. You know, like the way they just stare at them, the people who are bringing them back to life, and it's just
Mm.
like, what's going on in there? You know, they've been dormant for such a long time, and now they're being woken up. And then this idiot scientist, he gives them the ability to reproduce themselves, and it's just so well done. And I love the characters. It's a very well done character story. Bernard Arkard does a good job, who plays Professor Scarman from Pyramids of Mars, and I just think it's a brilliant story from start to finish. I really struggle to fault it. I think the only reason I'd put it slightly higher than the Daleks is because the Daleks are a lot more threatening in this one, and they do a lot more killing in this one, and it just makes me wish we had the real thing. Although I do think the animation does serve it in some instances. You know, it's obviously not the same 4 Daleks going in a circle,
Mm.
so the animation does help in that regard. But yeah, I
Did
think it
I did
is.
I even mention Power of the Daleks? Because I think I must have skipped that by accident. Oh, bugger.
Oh,
Because before Resurrection of the Daleks and after Day of the Daleks, I had Power of the Daleks. I must have skipped that one. Did I skip that one?
unless it was my fault. Oh, I
I
beg your pardon, Lee. Sorry.
I don't
Oh,
know.
oh
Don't
well.
know.
When we do a recap at the end, just say you put it there.
Yeah, but I mean,
Sorry.
I would say, yeah, because it was between Day of the Daleks
Mm,
and Resurrection of the Daleks. This was, because I remember when we were talking about Evil of the Daleks, that was my second favorite.
yeah.
And then yeah,
This
Power of
came
the
after.
Daleks.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously um, being Trout's first story. This was quite a big deal. I love him sort of get to grips with who he is, and he's sort of fumbling around with this 500-year-old diary, 500-year diary, and then coming across these Daleks and these people believing that these things are going to be a power for good. That's the thing, and he just like, nah, you don't know them like I.
Oh yeah, he does a great performance, doesn't he? And the thing that it does most efficiently is destroy human beings, and it's just like, I am your servant. Shut the up, Doctor. I've got a good thing going
Like
on here.
shit.
He's just trying to talk over him, like, yeah, shut up, Doctor. You won't
I just
spoil this for me.
I just love the Doctor knowing something that these people that and the frustration, because you can feel that frustration because from seeing them before what they are like, and these people are just like absolutely convinced that these are I think it's almost like you could almost see it as a metaphor for artificial intelligence today.
Yeah.
Like you can look at these, oh yeah, this would be such a power for good, and you think, yeah, but what's the downside? And then
Yeah, didn't
probably
they
some
say that
guy
about the
going,
atomic bomb?
right? So you can draw a lot of analogies from this story, and the warning it provides. That you don't know what you're necessarily dealing with here. The ominous threat. I mean, because we know what they are, but the characters don't know what they are. The Doctor knows what they are, and you kind of like with the Doctor, like, just again, what are you
One of
doing?
my favorite bits is like when there's a political war going on and they try to use the Daleks for that, and the Daleks are all confused. They're like, "Why do human beings kill other human beings?" He's like, "Mind your own business." He's like, "Yes, master." And it's like, "Hey guys, all we have to do is sit back and let them bloody kill themselves, and then we'll move in for the kill." Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
sinister the way it's played out,
It's
and it's
how
like
they play the game. They're
they're
playing the
smart,
long
they're
game.
intelligent, and that's how they should be.
Mm.
I mean, they were only stopped because their plug was pulled too soon before they were ready,
It's
which
like
thank God.
you just waiting for them to make the move, and you're just like, what are they playing at? What are they playing at? It's
Daleks
just
conquer and destroy. Daleks conquer and destroy. Yeah, brilliant. So, what's your number 3, Lee?
my number 3
Yep.
is Remembrance of the Daleks.
Okay.
I remember watching this coming out, and at school, after seeing the first season of Sylvester McCoy, we were quite demoralized in our little Doctor Who fandom at school. And we were just like, this has not been good. This has not been good. And then we saw this, and it was just like such a relief because we thought, oh yes, this is more like it. I mean, by this point, we'd seen enough classic Who on rewatch on the videos that our teacher who was running our Doctor Who club had played us. So we'd seen a lot of even Pertwee stories were still in black and white because there were copies of videos of recovered footage and recovered episodes that was just being discovered. A lot of people forget that some of the Pertwee stories were missing at one point, and the ones that they had were not colorized because they was in black and white, so they've been recorded from black and white. And so that was such a relief and it felt like classic Who again, because it didn't feel like classic. It felt like after Colin Baker had moved on, or rather unceremoniously booted out, it felt like a different animal. Like that, it had changed so much because we'd gotten so used to the kind of, the Peter Howell theme, and the title sequence, and the way the Doctor always wore a long coat. All these things, even from Baker to Davison to Colin, they all had kind of a similar look, even though it was quite different. But Sylvester McCoy was such a different actor to play the part. Short little man and his ridiculous question mark jump, and it was all a bit too much. And he played the Pratt, Pratt falling everywhere and all this kind of stuff. So seeing this was a real change, and the Daleks were really threatening. So this was like my Dalek, the RTD for you. This was like seeing the Daleks back and threatening again, and it was great. And of course, you had the sexiest neo-Nazi ever. You know,
There we go. Yep. That's that thing you liked about it the most.
Yeah. I mean, come on, he was gorgeous.
I mean,
And
I will admit, yeah, but I still not.
very handsome, and again, and he was character that RTD based his character on in what was that show again? The one he did. It's
Torchwood.
the Sin. It's the Sin.
Oh,
Yeah, it was based on that guy who died too young of HIV/AIDS. So yeah, it was a great story set. You could almost imagine that scientist was like a Barbara kind of character, wasn't she? She had that feel about her.
yeah.
And I love that. I love Unit being back in this. I loved it being set in Totter's Lane. I was obviously all sad
Well,
that
it
it wasn't
wasn't
the
Unit.
Brigadier. It wasn't Unit. It was pre-Unit, wasn't it? Sorry, yeah, it was the Army, but
Yeah,
it had that Unit feel to it, didn't
Well,
it?
he even said he was like, "Listen to me, Brigadier," and he's just like,
Yes,
Captain Gilmore."
yeah, that was great, and I love the setting of the creepy schoolgirl. That was cool, and
Yeah.
the bait and switch with the Davros thing. You thought, is that Davros? No, it's not Davros. Oh, there's no
No, it's just a
Davros. Oh,
girl.
there's an Imperial Dalek, but there's no Davros. Oh, the Imperial Dalek is Davros, and that was cool. That was
I
cool.
know. I thought the same thing as a kid.
I think his voice slightly gave it away that it was Terry Malloy. But the Doctor was very mysterious in this. They managed to succeed. I think this is Cartmel's master plan being put into action beautifully and create a bit of added mystery and the hand of Omega. And we thought we were going to see Omega, but we didn't get Omega. And the harking back to Hartnell's first Doctor, and I love the guy fainting when he sees the Doctor walking past with the
floating coffin.
Floating coffin. That was great, and the way they actually floated that coffin into the into that graveyard scene was actually really well done. And the blind priest, it's like your voice is different. There were so many wonderful callbacks, and it was a great story. You had the obviously the two factions fighting. You got the amazing special weapons Dalek that we'd never seen before. That was so cool.
Yeah.
The only sort of downside I'd say really was like it just felt a little bit rushed towards the end. I loved the face off between the Seventh Doctor and Davros at the end, though.
Yeah.
Please pity me.
I have pity for you. Bye, Davros. It hasn't been pleasant.
And boom! Like just destroy Scar.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc. I know. Oh, so number 2 for me, the story that started it all.
Oh, I thought that would have gone first.
I know, but like I say, for me, this is very much the Alien effect. So you see what it's like to have one of them, and you kind of set your standards for what to expect. So, like I say, I think we've talked about this extensively. Just the whole thing with Rose, the way it starts off chained up, I think was brilliant. And you see it vulnerable, and you kind of buy into all that. Oh, it's just a silly pepper pot, and then like, oh my god, now it's woken up, and now it's killing everything in sight effortlessly. And that's what I think, because this story fixes everything that had been made silly about them. It basically said, right, what do people take the mick out of when they think of the Daleks? Write a list. We're going to address every single thing in this story. The way the midsection can spin around like a tank and just shoot things behind it.
We hadn't seen that before.
No, it just doesn't even have to move. It just effortlessly kills people. It's not even. I don't even think it flinches. Like everyone's shooting at, it's just like, oh, are you guys almost done?
Stop it, guys! It tickles.
Yeah, I'm gonna make everything wet. Okay, do you guys see what I'm about to do? No, you're still shooting at me. Okay, ready?
Electrocutes the crap out of
Oh.
them.
And then, just like, Doctor, you really need to try a little harder than that because this is getting boring now.
And
It's
this is
brilliant.
the level of power that the Daleks should have continued to
Should,
have throughout, and they didn't, and they fumbled the ball on that. I really think
yeah,
if they'd have kept that level of menace up, no one would have been tired of seeing the Daleks.
no.
Even if they were there every season, they would have still
Because it
been
would have been like,
ominous.
oh my God, it's a Dalek, we're screwed. And that's how it should be. And it would
Yeah,
have been nice if they didn't have to appear every year. I
yeah,
think they'd have
definitely.
had much more time to spread their wings. And let's say you hadn't seen one for like 3 seasons. Imagine just how excited you'd be seeing one. You'd be like, how's the Doctor going to get out of this?
Mm. But
And I just think this is
they
a
should be
perfect.
the existential threat. The arch enemies of the Doctor.
Absolutely, and I just think that a lot of people criticize that scene where the Dalek opens up and you see the creature inside. I always tear up from that scene, and I
I when I
do.
first saw that, I was upset because it was pink. It's like, no, they're like green, gooey, horrible things, and it had an eye blinking away. I thought this is too
Yeah,
cute.
but you can see a kind of where a humanoid face used to be.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But for me, it was just like, no, they were always green, snotty blobs.
These
Like
little Doctor Who fans, man. I
argue
do.
over the small stuff.
But the reason why it makes me tear up this way is because, as someone who's dealt with mental health and depression for years, I have felt the way this Dalek is feeling.
Mm.
Like, this is not life, this is sickness. I don't want to change. I just want to be who I am. And I feel like something's happening to me that I can't control. And that's what's so tragic about it. The Dalek is becoming something better,
It's
it's
gonna be. I mean,
mutating.
it was unique in that respect because it was the first time, even for classic fans as well, sings a Dalek in the way that you'd never seen it before, in the sense that you actually felt some pathos, some empathy for. It was a character suddenly, rather than just a killing machine. It actually had a character to it, and it actually had uh, some emotion which we've never seen in a Dalek, really. I mean,
Mm,
apart from in Evil of the Daleks, I guess. But you actually felt sorry for it, and even the Doctor let his guard down with it, because he just wanted to kill it.
yeah.
But it, took its own life, really.
And that's what kind of, once again, it's like that they wouldn't have won. That Dalek, it only died because it ended itself, and it kind of, it doesn't take away from the threat of them,
Mm.
and that's why I just love this episode. I will admit there are some parts of it that maybe haven't aged as well, like the obvious CGI moments where
Mm.
the Dalek isn't the Dalek, it's a CGI model, and
And I think that as well, that what I had a problem with most of series one was it had that kind of Sylvester era over the top loud music, which was a bit too jarring for me, I think. And it's
for
very
me
dated.
that kind of enhances the scenes, but that might just be a generational thing.
Maybe I just thought, because it just harkened back to the sort of overpowered music of the day being
Mm,
used as they tried to do that in the late 80s in Sylvester's run, and the music ruins a lot of those stories for me. And I always thought in series one, particularly, like, I think Murray Gold was still finding his feet, but I think the music was a bit overpowering. Sometimes I couldn't hear what was being said. And it's a little bit dated now. His later work, I think, was much more timeless, I'd say.
mm.
Anyway, that's a
Okay,
small niggle. Oh,
okay,
and
so
PD Rich says the power of the Daleks explains how the Daleks survived Skaro. So there you are. They could be.
oh, I know it's like it's not in that order necessarily, but
Hmm.
right. So what's your number two then, Lee?
Has to be Destiny of the Daleks. And this one, I talked earlier about being as objective as possible, but I think really, for me, this being the first Doctor Who story that I remember sort of being burnt into my brain, was Destiny of the Daleks. And Tom and Lala are just absolutely on point. Um, Not the strongest actors, but I love the when they discover him covered in cobwebs and stuff. It's like
Mm.
he'd been there since the big, since Genesis of the Daleks. Even though when I first saw that, I had no idea what Genesis of Daleks was. So this was my first experience with Davros, and I was terrified of it. Again, more terrified of Tom, but he was funny as well, and his big grimacing teeth and popping eyes under his shadow of his hair and all that. And it was so much fun, and I had to put it there because my heart put it there.
I know, but it's like anything really. It's like that thing that introduces you. That's always going to have a special place in your heart.
Exactly. I can't underplay that, because for me, Tom is just effervescent in this, and the Fourth Doctor and Romana are absolutely peak. She's freshly regenerated, and it's an exciting new chapter, and I was on board completely.
Mm.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so guys, after 3 hours, we finally come down to the definitive moment. What is our favourite Dalek stories in the history of Doctor Who?
Yes.
So, shall I go firstly, or do you want to go
No,
first?
you go for it.
Okay. My favourite story of all time is, well, favourite Dalek story, Parting of the Ways.
Yeah.
Now, I just think that there is no other Dalek story in the show that displays their power the way this story does. The way they invade, the way they just effortlessly glide down the corridors, the way no matter how much they try and defend, they put barricades up, they try to electrocute them. Oh, the Daleks can just hack it so that the defenses don't work. And just keep on moving toward you. Try and shut the door. Daleks can just hack it so the door doesn't close. Keep moving toward you. You try blasting it with guns as hard as you possibly can. Daleks just stood there looking at you like, really? And then exterminate, exterminate, you're dead. And that scene where all those people are trapped down at the bottom and the Daleks just exterminate, 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 and it's just, oh my god. And then you just hear them dying, and then there's that annoying guy, who thought he'd get all the money and live, and then he's just like, "You can't kill me, I want the game." You know, what about the diversity and inclusion strategy? It's
Ah!
exterminate. Just floor zero. They killed everyone. It's just like, yep. And then that scene where they just rise outside the window. And you can't hear them because they're in space, but you just see the lights flash, and then they destroy the glass, she gets sucked out. Just Captain Jack, when it's all down to him, and he is just, the Daleks are just playing with him at that point. Like, they're backing him into the wall, and he knows, he's just spraying the bullets and not doing anything, and they're just like, the Dalek's just getting closer and closer. He gets the pistol out, and he knows it ain't gonna do shit, but he's like, I'm gonna go out fighting, man. And then the Daleks are just looking at him like, okay, you finished? He's like, exterminate. He's like, yeah, I know you were gonna say that. And the Dalek Emperor, gorgeous, gorgeous design. I love it. I do still kind of prefer the original one, but I do really love the redesign as well. I like that you can see the creature. I love just the spaceships. I love the Satellite 5, the very base under siege. Daleks in a base under siege story, fantastic. And it's just the sort of, they were never going to win, and the Doctor knew this from the very beginning. That's why he sent Rose home, because he knew. And he knew that he was to lie to all those people that he promised would live. He had to look at them in the eye and say, "We're going to get through this." Like, we're fucked. Like, there was no way around it. And then just that scene at the end when they surround him, and he's like, "I know it's game over. I know it is." And I know you and many others have a problem with the girl boss thing with Rose showing up, but I don't. And the reason for that is because, once again, the Daleks would have won. They had won. There was no way around it. They'd killed everyone, even a companion. They'd killed, because don't forget, we didn't know Jack was going to come back. They just killed a regular right in front of us. Just the futility of it. There was
Everybody lives.
I know, but
Not
that's the thing.
everybody.
It's a complete 180. And I honestly feel like Robert Holmes possessed the person who wrote this, because when you look at Bad Wolf, it has a very dark comedy, doesn't it? Like the Daleks manipulating things from behind the scenes, the television, killing people for entertainment, and then it gets to the Daleks themselves, and it's just, oh, it's absolutely perfect. I can't fault it. And Murray Gold's music and Rose, I know, yeah, she does evaporate them, but they would have won. They had won. The hero can't die, Lee. It's Doctor Who. And he didn't press a switch and they all fucking blew up, all silly and all that. It felt like, yes, and the Rose, it made the whole Bad Wolf thing work. And the Doctor sacrificing himself to save her, not because he loved her like in series 2, but because that's who the Doctor is. He knew it would kill him, he did it anyway. And it's just beautiful. And I think Parting of the Ways is the best regeneration story in the whole show. The Doctor sacrificing himself to save a companion. Doesn't that just mirror Caves of Androzani?
Yeah,
Just
no,
doing it.
I agree. I did a vote on some that guy does all those polls, and it
Yeah, I
was
voted for Parting of the Ways.
what's your favorite regeneration?
Yeah.
So I clicked that one definitely. I think the
Yeah.
others just got more overblown as it went
It's too
along.
much, dragged out. I love Eccleston's goodbye because it's just, it's a nice little speech. It's very emotional, but it's quick. It doesn't take too long, and he accepts it. He's just like, "Do you know what? So was I," and just that wonderful, and then just, changes into Tennant. You're like, "What the hell? Like, what's going on?" You imagine a whole generation like, "What the hell has gone on?"
Yeah.
And then just like, "Oh, that's right, Barcelona."
Great line.
10 out of 10. It is my favorite Doctor Who story ever. It was the first DVD I ever bought ever, and I've watched it so much. I'm amazed I haven't worn it out. It is perfect. I can't fault it. I can't. I'm sure someone will try. Oh, but what about it? Shut up. Just shut up. I don't want to hear it. It's perfect, and
No, your passion for it really shines through. No,
I'm sorry. I love it. I wish it's probably why everything else that came after just hasn't been as good to me, because it was just so perfect, And God bless the people who made it, because it will always be that thing that I turn back to. In fact, I want to watch it now.
You made me want to watch it now.
Yeah, well, we're watching series 1 soon, aren't we? So
Yeah.
right. So I'm gonna calm down, have a swig of lemonade. So, what is your number 1, Lee?
Well, it had to
Genesis. Well,
be
we know what it is. We know what
Genesis
it
of the
bloody is. Yeah,
Daleks.
there we go.
Now, I agree, it is a Davros story, but it has Daleks in it, and they're not a cameo. It's about them. It's about their
Yeah, I
creation,
know.
and it is Tom on top form, Sarah Jane on top form, even though, like, you forget she's even missing, uh, which is weird. And Ian Chester, not Ian Chester. Oh, my brain's gone dead. What's going on? Come on, help me out here. It's 3 hours. I'm sorry.
I know. I feel the same.
Anyway, so you got Davros, creator of the Daleks.
You've got the
He's
college.
been sent. Yeah,
Yeah.
Doctor's been sent there by the Time Lords. They're bastards, really, aren't they? Yeah, wants to create genocide. Look, it has some of the most amazing, and again, hate using a bloody word, but I have to use it because it's true in this case. Iconic scenes. Do I have the right? I mean, that is one of the greatest moral conundrums.
It is.
It's the biggest question in any time travel situation. The grandfather paradox, or the let's kill Hitler. We won't mention that story, but in terms of the actual philosophical question, and he knows that if he does. I mean, it's kind of funny because he does that big scene. He's done the right thing, but then later he goes, "Oh, fuck it, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And then the Daleks create the circuit and blow themselves up anyway. So he didn't have to do it. But I mean, would he have gone through with it, or would he have thought, actually, no, I can't? Who knows? But yeah, I find the Daleks
didn't, because remember, he pulled the explosives sort of out towards the door, so it was really only the door and the Dalek that blew up. Because he said no, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to delay them.
Yeah, and he did set them back. I mean,
He
that
did.
well, they set
He
themselves
did. I
back.
mean, they were going to be stuck in there for like bloody 50 years trying to get the way out.
But I love this story because I mean, I had this story on cassette tape as a kid because I didn't have. I don't think it was on DVD at the time. Might have been. I don't know, but I didn't have the video. And so I had the cassette tape, which was a double cassette tape. And I used to play it to death. Absolutely played it to death. I used to do tape to tape, so I'd like copy bits of it, make my own little edits.
Mhm.
And it's like when he's doing the big speech, and then and then I just have them blowing up and stuff. So it was just, and I played this with my friends, and they fell about. They thought it was funny. You've got so much war going on. You have this mix of different types of warfare, from like First World War, muskets and things, and rifles rather, and gas masks and laser guns, and it
Yeah,
was
I love
just
that.
such a mishmash, and it was fantastic. You could feel like this has been going on forever.
And another story that makes good use of a quarry, like effectively.
Yeah, yeah.
It-
I love the scenes of the underground base. I love Nider as a character. Nider is
yes.
such an incredibly great
You don't
character.
know who's worse, do you? Like him or Davros?
Yeah, and who's the real power behind the throne? And you see, Davros is also kind of held to account for his actions by the scientists, and he's
Well, the
tricking
thing is,
them.
like Davros, he at least has the excuse that he's off his rocker, but Nida's just a bloody lapdog. He's an arsehole. He joins the side he thinks will win.
Bootlicker, yeah.
Yeah, he's a coward.
And you got these wonderful sort of juxtapositions between the Doctor and his very sort of playful yo-yo wielding mentality, and these very self-facious, very self-serious sort of Yahtzee types, very, very on the nose. But he takes great pride in pleasure in poking their po-face sensibilities and undermining them every which way but loose. I mean, it's so much joy to watch. Sarah Jane, that climb up that rocket launcher and that ridiculous jump she had
Yeah.
to do. But like, I mean, you feel like, oh, God, don't fall. And then she fell
Oh, and
that
then
cliff.
the guy that was about to drop her, like, and
Yeah, yeah.
what I
Oh,
love
that
is
was
that
dark.
he's a Thal. Like the last time you saw the Thals, you remember them as these peaceful, loving people, but that's a wonderful message. It's like no one is innocent in war, and that is
Yeah.
unfortunately the truth. Even though, let's say Germany, that Hitler started the war, I imagine that our side did some pretty horrendous things, and we
Oh, yeah.
did. I
Mm.
mean, the atom bomb on Japan. I mean, that wasn't that's still debatable to this day if it was right.
Well, I
Or,
don't think there's any question it was wrong.
well, no, it was horrible.
But that is raised in this story as well. The use of nuclear weapons to wipe out the Thals, and it doesn't hold any punches at all. I mean, Davros is just bonkers, bonkers, McBonkers, as the
Well,
rabbi.
I always love it when he's just like, "You dare to interfere? You have the audacity to interrupt one of my experiments." He's
And
just
he's
like,
asked, if you had the power between life and death, would you this file, would you use it? And he's like,
"Yes,
yes,
I
yes.
would do it. That power would get me an invitation to the." Oh, I don't know, whatever. But it's just like, through the Daleks, I will have that golden ticket.
It's so
Release
good.
me. Don't touch that switch.
Michael Wisher is just on fire as Davros.
Yeah.
He's never better. This is the Davros. And he came to my school to visit us, and he was such a wonderful
That's
human
awesome.
being.
You had the bloody luckiest school.
It's the
Like,
only reason I went to that piece of crap school is because we had a doctor club there. And my God, I mean, we had Nicholas Courtney come to visit us. We had Michael Wisher, Terrence Dix came to visit us with
oh,
JNT. We had oh God, who else did we have? Leela,
Louise
Louise
James.
Jameson came to visit us. Who else did we have? I can't remember, but we also went to. Sad that I can't remember. It's my brain. I survived the 1990s. What can I tell you?
Mhm.
And yeah, we went to backstage at Ghostlight for the dress rehearsals for that. So we got to meet Sylvester and Sophie there as well. So we're pretty sweet. And we obviously got to what I mean. The majority of the time we were watching uh, video nasty sort of knockoffs of you know, stories that were just simply not available on VHS at the not commercially, because this was before I think one release. I can't remember what the first release was. Um, but it was, 1980, 88, 89, 90, 91. I was at school. So for 4 years, we watched videos of episodes of Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, that were not available anywhere at that point. So we were very lucky. Like I said, we got to see all the sort of Pertwee episodes, Claws of Axos and all that, and some of the episodes were in black and white for some of the stories, because that they were just freshly discovered. So our teacher had this connection with Phoenix, which was one of the Doctor Who convention clubs, whatever. It was an offshoot of DWAS. So yeah, I mean, we got to see Genesis of the Daleks that way, and we were absolutely enthralled. We'd never seen anything like it. We'd never seen, the Daleks this way before. We got to see the creation of the Daleks. It's so exciting, and they were sinister. They were quiet throughout the most part. They were
Yeah,
just
they
kind
didn't
of.
really say much until the end.
But that was the sinister. When you see them there, it's like da-da! And seeing
Mm.
Davros for the first time. Well,
Well, it
it wasn't
always
that.
makes me laugh when the Thals are getting pissed because like we won, exterminate. I bet
Yeah.
you sobered up really quickly then.
Yeah, that backstabbing, I mean, that's Davros all,
Yeah,
down the line for
it's
them.
like
But
you can. I mean, doesn't that just sum up I mean, dare I say it, the kind of political figures we have today?
yeah,
Just like that kind of the way he tricks the Thals into thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm on your side. I'm gonna do," it. And he wipes out his own people just to prove a point.
mm.
And then it's just
And I
like,
love how he gets to have like all the bullet points of his future, the future of the Daleks
mm,
being given to him, and then that was really interesting. It's like, well, imagine what you could do with all that power, knowing like where your Daleks, your creation, go wrong, and what you can do to change that. I mean, that would be terrifying.
I know, but thankfully they destroyed it.
Yeah, yeah, and that scene at the end with the hand about,
Mm. So overall, like, what would you say is the best quality about this story? Just try and keep it
I
short.
I think it's just so unique. Um, I mean, this is the first time you really get a deep dive into the Daleks' backstory. I know it kind of contradicts a lot from Terry Nation's original plans, whatever, but it for a six-parter, I don't think it drags. I think each episode has so much to it, and it keeps you going. And the characters are so great. You've got Davros, who is just such a wonderful creation. So I mean, you can say what you like about Terry Nation, but he does come up with some cracking villains.
He does,
um, and Tom Baker just is on top form. He's fresh in the role. This is his real first big story, and my God, it really, really puts the flag,
If
saying it
ever
like,
there was any doubt about his casting, it went away after this story.
yeah, this was, for many fans, the definitive Doctor Who story. I wouldn't say necessarily it's the definitive story, but certainly for me, it was such an important story,
Yeah.
and one that fired my imagination. And I was so glad to see more Davros, because I'd only ever seen Destiny of the Daleks when I was 4 years old. So I hadn't seen Davros for all these years, but it was so burnt into my mind, even as that kid. When I
Mm.
saw Genesis with Daleks, I got to see Davros again, and I got to see him, for the first time as he appeared, and that was so exciting for me, and that stayed with me. And my love for this story, especially through playing that cassette too, it was almost warped. um, it never got tiring for me, and that excitement still remains for me. Yeah, it's such a quintessential story.
Okay, so let us take a look at our lists and just run them again, Lee. So I'm going to let you go first. So from worst to best.
So yeah, last place we have Eve of the Daleks. Obviously, Resolution and Revolution of
Number
the
them as you're counting down.
28 Eve of the Daleks, 27 Resolution, 26 Revolution of the Daleks, which I never even watched, but gave us a great spoof that YouTuber did. Then, oh God, I can't count down. 28, 27, 26, 5 Into the Dalek, 24 The Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar. 23 The Dalek Master Plan, only because there was not enough to see. 22 Victory of the Daleks. 21 Daleks in Manhattan, The Evolution of the Daleks. 20 Death to the Daleks. 19 Planet of the Daleks. 18 The Chase. 17 The Evil of the Daleks. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people pissed off at that. 16 Asylum of the Daleks. I'd actually probably swap those around, actually, now I think of it.
It's done now, maybe another time.
Another time. Where are we? 15? Is it 15, did I say? Stolen Earth, Journey's End. 14. Get me if I'm wrong. Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. 13. The Dalek Invasion of Earth. 12. Day of the Daleks. 11. The Power of the Daleks. 10. Resurrection of the Daleks. Actually, I think I've got this wrong. Where are we? 1, 2. No, we've still got the movies as well. So where am I? 10? Is it 10? Did I say?
I think you're on 10, yeah.
Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. Number 9, we have the Doctor and the Daleks movie. Number 8, Dalek. Number 7, the Dalek Invasion Earth movie. Crikey, I can't remember where we're at now. I've only got 5 left, so I must have gone wrong somewhere.
Oh, just say them.
See, I
just
can't.
say
I'm
them.
just dyscalculate as well as
Yeah,
dyslexic.
I
This is stupid.
know.
Ask me to count down from 28 is just impossible.
I know.
So
Just say
okay,
them.
anyway, we'll go for number 5. So
Top
whatever.
5.
Yeah, top 5. There we go. Revelation of the Daleks. Number 4, the Daleks. Number 3, Remembrance of the Daleks. Number 2, Destiny of the Daleks. And number 1, the wonderful Genesis of the Daleks. Yes.
I can get behind that, to be honest, but as I say, I am an individual, if not a bit weird. So,
well, I think you're much more the Dalek man than I am. So I think, hats off to you. I think considering like you're a new Who fan who watched this in 2005 as a kid and then have delved so much into the classic era and found your love for classic Who is wonderful to me. And the fact that you managed to discover a whole other world of Daleks must have blown your mind. So that's really great to see.
It was better than the crap I was getting.
Well, that's also true.
Like, God, after Russell's era, it's like I think I'd have stopped being a fan if I'd have not gone back and watched classic. Not gonna lie. So, starting off, Wave 28, we have Eve of the Daleks, not worth watching. 27, Resolution. 26, Revolution of the Daleks. That literally gave me PTSD. I watched it last night. And then 25, Asylum of the Daleks. 24, The Witch's Familiar, Magician's Apprentice.
Same as me.
23, Death to the Daleks. 22, The Chase. 21, Into the Dalek. 20, Victory of the Daleks. 19, Planet of the Daleks.
Same as me.
18, Destiny of the Daleks. Oh no, 18, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, sorry. 17, Destiny of the Daleks. 16, The Stolen Earth, Journey's End. 15, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday. 14, Resurrection of the Daleks. 13, The Daleks Master Plan. 12, Daleks in Manhattan, Evolution of the Daleks. 11, Revelation of the Daleks. 10, Genesis of the Daleks. 9, Evil of the Daleks. 8, Day of the Daleks. 7, Remembrance of the Daleks. 6, Doctor Who and the Daleks, the movie. 5, The Dalek Invasion of Earth 2150 AD movie. 4, The Daleks. 3, Power of the Daleks. 2, Dalek. And 1, Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay!
Hey!
Long and winding journey.
Oh, it's only taken us 3 hours and 15 minutes. Still.
Well, 3 hours and 25 nearly.
Oh dear God. So I would like to say a big thank you to PD in the chat for being here. And I noticed that someone else is currently watching us. So thanks for popping in. This has been a really long one. And to think that I thought we could do this in under an hour.
Nah, fool.
I mean, I should know, being with you, Lee, that's just not going to happen.
Well, look,
But,
we can talk passionately about it. I think if we had more time, we could have talked much more about each episode and going live and going off my memory, for crying out loud, which is like, it's full of cobwebs. So air goes in one and comes out the other. So it's very hard to go into so much detail because you're trying to think of so many things all at once about all these and condensing it down into like 2 minutes. It's so difficult, but hey, we got there. We got there.
And you know what? I feel like it was very rewarding. Actually, I think it's reminded me a lot of what I love about the show, and that's why I love doing this. In spite of how downhill it's gone now, and I will also be doing videos and podcasts on this channel discussing in detail while I'm not happy with the direction of the show and all that. But I also want to do some fun stuff because sometimes I just get tired of the negativity. Just
You want to talk
really.
about why you love it, not necessarily why
Yeah,
you don't love
yeah,
it.
because
I
I'm
mean,
not
we
here.
love the show, and that's why we'll always be honest about it, because when you see something you love being treated in the bad way, you're not criticizing Doctor Who as an entity. You're criticizing what's being done to it as an entity. So
Absolutely.
people have to understand that difference.
But Russell handled the Daleks well before. Maybe he can do it again.
Well, I hear they're in for a redesign, so we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see, but it'd be very, very interesting. So,
will it be Nick Briggs?
I'm just going to say, Nick Briggs, I really like you. You know what you've done with the Daleks, but I just think it's time to let someone else have a go. You can carry on doing it for Big Finish. I don't listen to Big Finish anyway. But, I really do think it's time for a change because I love the guy who did the voices in the 60s. And I just think, oh, I'm sorry, PD, that won't happen again.
You got our pronouns wrong.
You
Exterminate.
will be exterminated. So we're definitely going to have to do the Cybermen next, I think. God, do the Cybermen have even more stories than the Daleks? I think they do. Oh, they've been so overused. I don't know. I can't remember anything about them.
I don't think because they're not contractually obliged to appear every season, though, are they? Like the Daleks?
No, they're not. But they do for some reason, or almost. In the RTD era, there was only 2.
Well, Pertwee era, there were none. So
actually, yeah, I think there might be less. It's just they've overused them a lot recently. Yeah, especially.
How many times did they appear in Tom's Reign?
Once.
In 8 years.
8 years. That's mad. So yeah, I'll definitely put a playlist together where we'll talk about the different Doctor Who monster stories. We'll have to do the Sontarans as well, because I think they've had enough stories to justify a ranking.
That's fair.
And as I really enjoyed the Time Warrior. So once again, I'd like to thank all those of you who have tuned in to watch, all 2 of you. You've got to start somewhere, that's what I say.
That's it.
So, as I say, let me know down in the comments below your personal listing if you want to take the time to do that. I'm always interested to read what other fans have to say, like I'm not going to get offended by it. I am just genuinely interested to know where you put things. And just thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thanks for the support. Stay safe and happy wherever you are in the world. And me and Lee will catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.